Chapter 228. Outside Tianfeng town, Ouyang Shua smiled coldly when he saw the guards on the city walls. He ordered his troops to continue advancing until they were less than 500 meters away from the city walls. Ouyang Shua unhurriedly took out 2 3-bow, 8-bull bed crossbows from his storage pouch. Under the guidance of the Divine Arms Battalion Commander Wang Yuanfeng, the personal guards started to assemble and calibrate the crossbows. After debugging, he immediately fired the treading arrow at the city wall. Rows and rows of arrows were nailed to the city wall, forming a forest of arrows on the city wall, similar to the climbing wall of modern society. The first and second platoons of the personal guard camp, who had long been prepared, nimbly dismounted from their horses under the personal leadership of Battalion Commander Wang Feng. They ran to the base of the city wall, and with the help of the treading arrows, they swiftly began to ascend the city wall. The cavalry battalion continued to advance until they were within the firing range of the horn bows. They knocked their arrows and rained down arrows on the city walls, suppressing the firepower of the city guards and covering the advance of the personal guard battalion. Heavenly Wind Town had just lost 1,000 soldiers, and there were only a few of them left. How could they possibly be a match for the cavalry battalion? They were suppressed to the point where they did not even dare to show their faces. Once he revealed his head, he would be shot by an arrow and die instantly. The scattered stones did not pose any threat to the vanguard team. One by one, they successfully climbed up the city wall. After the vanguard team climbed up the city wall, they pulled out the tang swords from their waists and fought with the city guards. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ouyang Shu ordered the 3rd, 4th, and 5th squad of the personal guard camp to carry the battering ram that was prepared in the morning and start charging towards the city gate, preparing to break through the city gate. On the city wall, the members of the vanguard team raised their swords and dropped them, often killing an enemy. Although they didn't have the advantage in numbers, they had the absolute upper hand in terms of strength. They were able to kill the city guards and force them to retreat again and again. In less than 20 minutes, the unguarded city gate was breached. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th platoons of the personal guard camp immediately ascended the city wall to assist their companions in eliminating the city guards. Ouyang Shua put away the 3 bows, 8 bulls bed crossbow and ordered his troops to enter the city, preparing to harvest the fruits of victory. In less than an hour, the mighty army successfully killed their way into the city gates. After the cavalry entered the city, the people of Tianfeng town turned pale with fright and hid in their homes, not daring to show their faces. Ouyang Shua didn't care about these commoners. His army headed straight for the Lord's mansion. As long as they occupied the Lord's mansion, the outcome would be set. The Lord of Heavenly Wind Town, Elder Dawn Wind Waning Moon, led his last group of personal guards and all of the reserve members, a total of 500 or so people, to guard the Lord's mansion. The only thing that made him feel relieved was that 10 minutes ago, Ba Dao had finally brought the last 300 elites of Duanren town to reinforce him and protect the Lord's mansion with him. The street leading to the mansion was densely packed with barricades. Using the time gained by defending the city walls, Dawn Wind Waning Moon mobilized the territory's residents to use wood and stones to block the roads, trying to stop the enemy cavalry and buy more time. When Ouyang Shua saw this scene, he steeled his heart and ordered everyone to dismount and fight as infantry. He left 3 platoons of the 2nd Battalion of the 2nd Brigade in charge of guarding the horses. The rest of the cavalry crossed the barricades one by one and marched resolutely towards the Lord's mansion. Inside the mansion, 2 simple archery towers were temporarily built. Under the protection of his personal guards, Dawn Wind and Waning Moon stood on one of the watchtowers and sternly said, "How can you say you have no clothes? You are so cruel." Ouyang Shua laughed and shook his head. "Since you dared to provoke Shanghai County, you should be prepared to die along with the territory. I won't let you succeed." Ouyang Shua didn't want to talk nonsense with him. He turned to look at Ba Dao and sneered. "You are Duanren Town's lord, Ba Dao, right? You are very brave." Facing Ouyang Shua's threat, Ba Dao's expression didn't change. "Today, either you die or I live." "Good." Ouyang Shuo shouted and coldly ordered, "Attack!" Ouyang Shuo took out the 3-8 bull's bed crossbow again. Under Wang Yuanfeng's command, he aimed at the 2 watchtowers and prepared to deal with the enemy's threat on the high ground. The 1-spear, 3-swords arrow fired by the bed crossbow was like a cannonball that had just left the barrel, accurately flying towards the arrow tower, making a series of sharp whistling sounds in the air. The huge arrows that were like javelins directly hit the warriors on the arrow tower and sent them flying. Even the arrow tower itself was shaved off a large piece. It was on the verge of collapse, splashing sawdust all over the sky. If Elder Dawn Wind and Waning Moon wasn't smart enough to jump down from the watchtower before the 3-8 bull's bed crossbow was fired, he would have already died. Wang Yuanfeng persisted and ordered to fire 2 more rounds of 1-spear, 3-sword arrows. The watchtower finally couldn't bear it anymore and broke into 2 pieces. It creaked and fell down, raising a cloud of dust. The soldiers under the watchtower retreated in panic. All of them were dumbstruck. The 3-8 bull's bed crossbow's great power left an indelible shadow in the hearts of these soldiers. After destroying the watchtowers, Ouyang Shuo ordered the troops to continue advancing. Shoot! The cavalrymen turned into archers and formed a formation outside the mansion. They chose to use the projectile method to rain arrows into the mansion to suppress the enemy. The personal guards still acted as a sharp knife and began to attack the mansion's gate. From time to time, miserable screams came from inside the mansion. There was no need to guess. It was definitely an unlucky person who was shot by the arrows. The dense rain of arrows forced the soldiers to retreat to the corridor, not daring to stay in the courtyard. No matter how Elder Dawn Wind and Ba Dao shouted, the soldiers didn't dare to come out. What a joke! With such a dense rain of arrows, standing in the spacious courtyard was like a live target. Behind the gate was a pile of stones. It was difficult to break through in a short period of time. Ouyang Shuo decided to use the same trick again and ordered Wang Yuanfeng to use the 3-8 bull's bed crossbow to fire treading arrows at the walls of the mansion. The personal guards skillfully used the treading arrows to climb up the walls, jump down, and entered the mansion to fight with the enemy. The 500 personal guards were like 500 ferocious tigers, setting off a reign of terror in the mansion. Ouyang Shuo was still not satisfied. He ordered a portion of the cavalrymen to climb up the walls and continue to provide fire support for the personal guard from above. The remaining people began to attack the mansion's gate with all their strength. The wood that Elder Dawn Wind and Waning Moon used to set up the barricade was carried over by the cavalrymen and used as a temporary battering ram. Inside the mansion, the rain of arrows stopped. Under the lead of Elder Dawn Wind, Waning Moon, and Ba Dao, the soldiers rushed out of the corridor and fought with the personal guards who jumped into the courtyard. Even though they had the advantage in numbers, the allied forces of Tianfeng Town and Duanren Town were still being killed and forced to retreat. The temporarily gathered reserve soldiers were rookies among rookies. When they came into contact with the experienced personal guards, they were scared out of their wits and didn't dare to move forward. Ba Dao steeled his heart and took his elite troops to the very front to fight with the personal guards. The cavalry archers who climbed up the walls continuously shot arrows down to assist the personal guards in attacking. Ba Dao's troops naturally became the archers' priority targets. The poor Ba Dao was caught off guard and was shot in the thigh by an arrow, falling to the ground. When the soldiers of Duanren Town saw the lord injured and fell to the ground, they risked their lives and surrounded him, tried to move him to the rear for treatment. How could the personal guards let go of such a good opportunity and fiercely attacked? In a short period of time, another reign of terror broke out. The soldiers of Duanren Town, who couldn't concentrate on defending, paid a heavy price to save Ba Dao. At this time, the outcome was already decided. The cavalrymen on the wall imitated the soldiers of the personal guard camp and leaped into the courtyard. Some of them rushed to the gate of the Lord's mansion and moved away the stones that were pushed against the gate. Helpless, Dawn Wind Waning Moon could only gather the remaining troops, abandon the courtyard, and retreat to the meeting hall. In the meeting hall, Tianfeng Town's territory stone tablet was already slowly rising, waiting for the unknown fate. The personal guards didn't immediately attack the meeting hall. Instead, they helped the cavalry break open the gate of the Lord's mansion. After breaking open the gate, Ouyang Shua led the remaining troops into the Lord's mansion. Because the courtyard of the Lord's mansion had limited space, most of the cavalry was left outside the Lord's mansion and surrounded it to prevent anyone from escaping, especially Lord Dawn Wind Waning Moon. At the same time, they were also responsible for monitoring the territory and preventing any reinforcements from coming through the teleportation formation outside the Lord's mansion. After the Expeditionary Army of Shanghai County entered the courtyard, they lined up again and reorganized their battle formation, preparing for the final battle. Inside the meeting hall, the Allied forces gradually revealed expressions of despair as they watched the enemy troops file into the hall. The personal guards acted as the vanguard and were the first to charge into the meeting hall. The Allied forces were fighting with their backs to the wall. They had no way out and could only fight to the death. The narrow meeting hall became the battlefield for the final battle between the two sides. The soldiers of the personal guards relied on their steel-like will, invincible spirit, superb skills, and excellent equipment to advance courageously. They didn't fear death and viewed honor as their life. Attacking and killing the enemy were their instincts. The soldiers formed a highly efficient killing machine, constantly pushing forward. Death was the best gift for any enemy who stood in the way of the personal guard camp, and the blood of the enemy was the best baptism. Such a ferocious army caused the enemy to tremble in fear at the sight of it. Dawn Wind, Waning Moon, and Tyrant Blade incessantly boosted their morale and made their final struggle. The killing continued. Boiling blood flowed through the cracks of the stone floor of the meeting hall, forming countless bloody footprints on the ground. It was like an Azura training ground. Cold blade lights flashed, and blood splattered everywhere. The screams of the wounded were drowned out by the blade lights and couldn't cause any splashes. Ouyang Shua stood outside the meeting hall, expressionlessly watching this feast of killing. When the ground was dyed red with blood, when their comrades fell into pools of blood one after another, when the weapons in their hand were cut in half, when the blood of their comrades blurred their vision, the Allied soldiers finally lost the courage to continue fighting and fled. They passed through the back door of the meeting hall and attempted to escape to the backyard. Dawn Wind Waning Moon smiled bitterly. He didn't retreat like Tyrant Blade. Instead, he unsheathed the sword at his waist and faced the oncoming personal guards alone. He shouted loudly, "Kill!" This was Dawn Wind Waning Moon's final song as a lord. The personal guards pounced on him and slashed him into a pool of blood. To be continued. Chapter 229. First year of Gaia, 7th day of the 9th month. At 9:12 in the morning, Skywind Town's lord, Dawn Wind Waning Moon, died in battle. Dawn Wind and Waning Moon's miserable smile became Ouyang Shua's deepest memory of this expedition. Ouyang Shua could completely understand the feelings a lord had for his territory. Dawn Wind Waning Moon didn't choose to escape. At the last moment, he made his choice and vowed to live and die with the territory. Territorial wars had nothing to do with good or evil or justice. There was only survival and ambition. The strong survived and the weak perished. Ouyang Shua walked into the meeting hall and ordered his personal guards to continue annihilating the enemy. He arrived in front of the stone tablet of Tianfeng Town's territory, pulled out his Tang saber, channeled his golden inner energy, poured it into the Tang saber, and chopped down with all his might. Ouyang Shua did not know any saber techniques, so he did not know any saber techniques. He relied purely on brute force to shatter the stone steels. The territory stone steels had a certain amount of defense and durability, which were directly related to the grade of the territory and the grade of the village creation token. A level 1 village created with the lowest grade bronze village creation token has 100 durability and 10 defense. Every time the village creation token increased by a level, its starting value increased by 20. Every time the territory increased by a level, its durability and defense doubled. And every time the territory increased by a large stage, its durability and defense quintupled. Skywind Town was a level 3 town, and it used a bronze village creation token, which had 8,000 durability and 800 defense. Attack value minus defense value was the amount of durability consumed with each attack. If the attack value was lower than the defense value of the stone steel, and it was unable to break through the stone steel's defense, a point of durability would be forcefully deducted. Ouyang Shua's saber only shaved off 12 points of the steel's durability. With no other choice, he could only summon his personal guards to attack the stone tablet. Half an hour later, the stone tablet was finally broken. The instant the stone tablet shattered, the sound of a system notification entered Ouyang Shua's ears. System notice. Congratulations to player not wearing for conquering Wind Town. Please choose how you wish to deal with Wind Town. Occupy, transfer, or destroy. I choose to possess. Tianfeng Town's strategic position was very important, so Ouyang Shua naturally chose to occupy it. Not only Tianfeng Town, but he also chose to occupy the 4 territories that he had destroyed 2 days ago. System notification. After occupying the territory, you can rename it. Do you wish to rename it? No. Ouyang Shua wasn't interested in thinking of another name. After occupying the territory, Ouyang Shua finally had the time to clean up the mess. The battle in the back courtyard of the Lord's mansion had already concluded. Dawning Wind Waning Moon had died in battle, and the remaining soldiers of Skywind Town had all surrendered. As for Ba Dao and his remaining troops, they were annihilated by the personal guard camp, leaving no survivors. Ouyang Shua oversaw the Lord's mansion and took over Tianfeng Town's authority, issuing a series of orders. Ouyang Shua ordered the 2nd Battalion of the 2nd Brigade to be in charge of wiping out the armed forces of the 2 affiliated territories of Tianfeng Town and forcing them to surrender. He also issued a public announcement to inform the people that Tianfeng Town was now under the rule of Shanhai County. He also ordered the Personal Guard Battalion to take over the military barracks in the city and maintain law and order. He also ordered the townspeople to clean up the barricades outside the Lord's mansion and restore order to the territory. In the afternoon, Tianfeng Town returned to normal. Ouyang Shua ordered the 1st and 2nd Battalions of the 2nd Brigade to immediately return to Shanhai County. At the same time, he brought his oral orders. Order the North Sea Fleet's 1st Battalion to travel upstream along the Friendship River and rush to Shilal Lake to defend. He also appointed Zhao Duong, the division chief of construction, as the chief of Tianfeng Town and selected a group of capable administrative personnel from the territory to follow the North Sea Fleet. He also ordered the shipyard to dispatch a group of shipbuilders to Tianfeng Town and be in charge of building a shipyard at Shilal Lake. After the 1st and 2nd Battalions of the 2nd Brigade left, Ouyang Shua began to receive the various officials of Tianfeng Town. The Lord's mansion had been cleaned up, and the corpses had been carried away to be buried in the cemetery outside the town. The bloodstains on the ground had been washed clean, but the smell of blood still lingered in the air. As a level 3 town, Tianfeng Town could be ranked in the top 300 among the players' territories. Dawning Wind Waning Moon could be considered a rather capable lord, and he managed Tianfeng Town in an orderly manner. The headquarters of Tianfeng Town had 23 officials of various levels. Among them, there were 11 iron-level talents, 2 silver-level talents, and 1 gold-level talent. There were no talents in history. After the 2 battles, Tianfeng Town's army was almost completely wiped out, which directly caused the population of Tianfeng Town to plummet. The total population of the headquarters was less than 7,000 people. After Tianfeng Town was occupied, it was no longer possible to spawn refugees. Ouyang Shua simply moved all the people of the 2 subsidiary territories back to the headquarters, causing the population of the headquarters to exceed 10,000. Since Tianfeng Town was located outside of Shanhai County's territory, the population of Tianfeng Town could not be included in Shanhai County's territory unless Ouyang Shua moved all of them to Shanhai County. Naturally, Ouyang Shua would not kill the goose that laid the golden eggs. He was prepared to turn Tianfeng Town into an important stronghold. He began to reform the administrative structure of Tianfeng Town according to the model of Shanghai County's subsidiary territories. With the 23 officials as the foundation, he built the administrative office, the internal affairs office, the finance office, and the resources office. When Zhao Duong arrived with the capable administrative personnel, he would be able to ensure that Tianfeng Town could start operating immediately. Among the officials, the only gold-level talent was called Pu Zhidao. He was a high scholar, and he was 42 years old. He was also an important assistant of the former lord of Tianfeng Town, Dawning Wind Waning Moon. Ouyang Shuo met Pu Zhidao alone in the lord's office. A scholar had his own style, and he was unwilling to serve two masters, especially when his old master's corpse was still warm. After Pu Zhidao entered, his attitude was cold, as if he was unwilling to talk to Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo smiled slightly, not minding it. After inviting Pu Zhidao to sit down, he said, "Mister, I'm sure you know what's going on between Tianfeng Town and Shanghai County. As for who's in the right and who's in the wrong, please judge for yourself." Pu Zhidao's expression was somewhat moved. As an important assistant of Dawning Wind Waning Moon, Pu Zhidao naturally knew that it was Tianfeng Town who took the initiative to provoke them that brought about today's disaster. Winner takes all, and no one could say anything about it. Since it was a knot in their hearts, it was naturally not so easy to untie it. Since they had different standpoints, their starting points were naturally different. In Pu Zhidao's view, Tianfeng Town's actions were not wrong. It was just that they were not strong enough. Of course, Ouyang Shuo did not expect to convince Pu Zhidao so easily. He continued, "If you are good at learning, you will become an official. I hope that Mr. can consider the people of your territory. If Mr. stays out of this matter, you will naturally be fulfilling your own style, but it will be hard on the people of Tianfeng Town. The people will lose a dutiful and responsible official. Wouldn't the gains outweigh the losses?" Pu Zhidao let out a long sigh and bowed. Humble servant Pu Zhidao greets the marquis. Ouyang Shuo helped Pu Zhidao up and said, "With Mister's help, Tianfeng Town will have no worries." Ouyang Shuo immediately appointed Pu Zhidao as the chief administrative officer. With the help of this chief administrative officer who was familiar with Tianfeng Town, he handled the affairs of Tianfeng Town with even more ease. The next day, the personal guard camp left the town and began to exterminate the surrounding bandits. Ouyang Shuo specially told them that the extermination of the bandits was not limited to Tianfeng Town's territory, but the entire area around Shila Lake. The purpose of exterminating the bandits was to calm the people's hearts and prove that the new ruler had the ability to protect the people. The second purpose was to use the extermination of the bandits to capture a group of bandits and use them to establish Tianfeng Town City Defense Camp. It was impossible for the personal guard camp to stay in Tianfeng Town permanently. Before leaving, Ouyang Shuo had to ensure that Tianfeng Town had the ability to protect itself. Tianfeng Town's recruitment potential had already been squeezed dry by the previous lord, Dawn Wind Waning Moon, so Ouyang Shuo could only place his attention on the bandits. Ouyang Shuo took 4 personal guards with him and went straight to Shila Lake after leaving the town. As the brightest pearl on the west side of Lianzhou Basin, Shila Lake covered an area of 3,150 square kilometers, far larger than the territory of a first-rank county. The maximum depth of Shila Lake was 35 meters, and the average depth was 25 meters. The lake water was crystal clear, and the temperature was just right. The plants were lush, and the fish were abundant. In addition, there were all kinds of birds living in Shila Lake, bringing vitality to the lake. Shila Lake was undoubtedly a treasure trove. Ouyang Shuo didn't have a specific development plan for the time being. He couldn't help but feel broadened as he gazed at the lake's water and sky that merged into one. Shila Lake was undoubtedly a treasure trove. Ouyang Shuo didn't have a specific development plan yet. In the following week, the personal guard camp attacked everywhere and swept the bandits with lightning speed. Within a radius of 5,000 kilometers, countless bandit camps of all sizes were wiped out. In this battle, they seized a total of 4,100 gold coins, captured 1,020 fighting bandits, 2,250 non-fighting bandits, and countless resources. They greatly enriched Tianfeng Town's warehouse and armory. The outstanding achievements of the personal guard camp brought great shock to the people of Tianfeng Town. Back then, Tianfeng Town had always been careful and meticulous in suppressing bandits. They weren't as easy as the personal guard camp. Only such a strong army could bring a sense of security to the people. The large number of captives added to Tianfeng Town's population. Ouyang Shua officially changed Tianfeng Town's name to Tianfeng County, becoming the fourth county-level subsidiary territory of Shanghai County. Using the seized funds, Ouyang Shua selected a group of elites from the captured fighting bandits. Together with the captives from Tianfeng Town, he established Tianfeng County City Defense Camp. The City Defense Camp included a blade and shield battalion and an archer battalion, a total of 1,000 people. Ouyang Shua then selected a group of backbones from the personal guard camp and added them to the City Defense Camp. They served as battalion commanders and platoon leaders. Other than territorial defense, the City Defense Camp's more important mission was to continue suppressing bandits. According to Ouyang Shua's plan, since there were no more refugees spawning, he would use the bandits in the wilderness to promote the population of Tianfeng County. Ouyang Shua only kept 1,000 gold coins for the remaining funds after the City Defense Camp's job change. He planned to leave the remaining 2,700 gold coins for the Four Seas Bank's Tianfeng County branch that was about to be built to promote Tianfeng County's economic development. After occupying Tianfeng County for only a week, Ouyang Shua's series of measures brought a new wind to Tianfeng County, sweeping away the previous dull atmosphere. To be continued. Chapter 230. On the 15th day of the 9th month of the first year of Gaia, the North Sea Fleet's 1st Battalion arrived at Silo Lake. Tianfeng County Government Conference Hall. Ouyang Shua gathered all the officials and generals of Tianfeng County together and appointed Zhao Duong as the county magistrate of Tianfeng County. He also appointed the head of the Internal Affairs Department, the head of the Finance Department, and the head of the Logistics Department. The 1st Battalion of the North Sea Fleet was separated from the North Sea Fleet and renamed the Westlaw Lake Navy Battalion. It was placed under the jurisdiction of Tianfeng County. The original 1st Battalion commander, Zhou Feng, was transferred to the Westlaw Lake Navy Battalion commander. According to Pu Zhidao, the chief administrative officer of Tianfeng County, there were water bandits in Shila Lake. Thus, the first mission of the Shila Lake Navy Battalion was to clear out the Shila Lake pirates. The waters of Shila Lake were vast, and the water bandits were the local bullies. It would not be easy to eliminate them. After Zhao Duong took office, the first task in front of him was the construction of the small military port and shipyard at Shila Lake. In addition, there was an even more arduous task, which was to build the official road between Tianfeng County and Shanghai County. Ouyang Shua had already thought a name for the official road. It would be called Sky Sea Road. The total length of the Sky Sea Road was more than 300 kilometers. It was the most expensive and time-consuming infrastructure project in Shanghai County so far. In order to speed up the construction, Shanghai County and Tianfeng County would start the project at the same time. They would advance side by side and then merge in the middle. Most of the time, the construction of the Heavenly Sea Road was done in the wilderness. The construction environment was harsh. Not only did they have to guard against wild beasts, they also had to guard against the attacks of bandits. Therefore, it was necessary to arrange for troops to protect them along the way. Tianfeng County City Defense Camp would prioritize the areas along the Tianhai Road to suppress the bandits. The construction of the Sky Sea Road had strategic significance. As long as a courier station was built along the Tianhai Road and the flag of Shanghai County was planted there, the deterrence and dominance of Shanghai County over the western part of the Lianzhou Basin would be enhanced. Tianfeng County, Evernight Town, and Guangshui Town formed an iron triangle, which was connected by the Sky Sea Road. It was enough to control the situation in the western region. Even if any territory asked for help, it would not be a threat to Shanghai County. Shanghai County had enough time to mobilize their troops, organize defenses, or annihilate the enemy. After occupying the three most important player territories in the West, Ouyang Shual would adopt a conciliatory policy towards the remaining player territories. Ouyang Shual would have to wait until he returned to Shanghai County to formulate the specific policy. Ouyang Shual left Zhao Duang alone and returned to Shanghai County in the afternoon. On the way, he also took his personal guard camp to inspect Eternal Night Town and Guanshui Town. Shanghai County had already sent people to take over the 4 second-class towns, including Eternal Night Town. They had appointed the chief officials, reformed the administrative structure, set up the city defense battalion, and opened a branch of the Bank of the Four Seas. The Evernight Town was located next to the Evernight Forest, and it was designated as a forest town. Guanshui Town and Yishui Town were next to the river, and the riverbank was convenient for reclaiming fertile farmland, so they were designated as agricultural towns. Gushan Town was backed by a huge mountain, so Ouyang Shual was preparing to set it up as the second mountain barbarian settlement. On the afternoon of September 18th, Ouyang Shual and the rest returned to Shanghai County. The first thing Ouyang Shual did when he came back was to rush to the market to check the price of food. In the market, the price of food continued to rise. Each unit of food had already risen to 20 copper coins, which was double the price. As the price of food continued to rise, the Lord players could no longer remain calm, and they began to use their territory's liquid funds to purchase food. The far-sighted feudal lords even began to sell wood, iron, ore, and other basic resources to obtain funds. They increased the purchase of food to ensure that their territory would have enough food before November. The panic buying of grain further pushed up the price of grain. Nowadays, the price of food changed every day. The main force in selling food were the merchant guilds of the various system capital cities. The food in their hands was also purchased from the farmers in the outskirts of the capital cities, and it wasn't an unlimited supply. Every system capital city had tens of millions of players, and their existence was a huge pressure on the capital city's food supply. The merchants of the merchant guilds were all shrewd people. Seeing the market price of food rising, some large merchant guilds even began to hoard food in reverse, preparing to make a huge profit. Because of this, the storm caused by the food became more and more intense, and all sorts of bad people participated in it. Shanghai County was also affected by the storm. The various branches of the Bank of the Four Seas set up in the territories of its allies were constantly in a state of emergency. The amount of loans they received increased exponentially, and their coffers were about to reach the bottom. Ouyang Shual made a prompt decision, and he transferred 8,500 gold coins from the first half of September to all the major branches. Milan Town, Black Lion Town, and Heavenly Frost Town each increased their reserve by 1,500 gold coins, while Xuanlong County and Luofeng County each increased their reserves by 2,000 gold coins. Unfortunately, this amount of money was only a drop in the bucket for the territories. The lords had to take the risk and began to ask for money from the roving bandits, just like Shanghai County. The problem was that the number of roving bandits was limited. For example, Shanghai County was basically wiped out once after each territory was promoted, and it was considered a one-time profit. During the time Ouyang Shual was away, the eastern camp had completed the bandit suppression mission that was forced to stop due to the enemy attack, and they seized 4,200 gold coins. In total, they captured 15,200 people, all of whom were transferred to Shanghai County, while Ouyang Shual was away. During this period, more and more life profession players were teleported to Shanghai County to settle down. The Falling Moon Society had reached the upper limit of 1,000 members, but unfortunately, there was still some time before it could be promoted. In addition, Elder Sun and the others continued to contact scientists, inviting them to settle down in Shanghai County. Now, the size of the team of scientists had expanded to 45 people, and it was still growing. The obsolete equipment that Ouyang Shual entrusted the Snow Rose mercenary group to dump had been sold out. With the funds, the mercenary group began to set up offices for Shanghai County in the various capital cities. After the offices began to operate, Shanghai County would usher in another small wave of population. The 1st Brigade of the 1st Division had been rebuilt. The soldiers of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Battalions were directly replenished from the regular Army captives. The soldiers of the 1st and 2nd Battalions were still replenished by the elite soldiers of the mountain barbarian tribes. The two large-scale conscription almost squeezed out the potential of the mountain barbarian tribes. According to the plan, Shanghai County had been delayed by more than half a month. In order to gain the understanding and support of the mountain barbarian tribes, Tian Wenjing, the director of the Internal Affairs Bureau, had to increase the food aid to the mountain barbarian tribes. After Ouyang Shuo returned, he immediately launched the military operation to eliminate the bandit stronghold, codenamed Mountain Cat. Because it was a jungle operation, other than the Personal Guard Battalion and the Divine Arms Battalion, 8 battalions of the 1st Brigade and the 3rd Brigade participated in the Mountain Cat operation. Lung Qian, the deputy director of the Military Intelligence Division, had led the elite spies of the 1st Intelligence Division and obtained detailed information about the bandit stronghold. The situation was worse than expected. The bandit stronghold was located in the Evil Lion Ridge, which was easy to defend and difficult to attack. The population of the stronghold was more than 14,000 people, and there were more than 8,000 combat-type bandits. There were many elite bandits among them. There was only a small path up the mountain, but the bandits had set up 3 checkpoints. Trying to force their way up was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Is there no other way up the mountain? Ouyang Shuo was unwilling to give up. Lung Qian shook his head and said, "There is a cliff behind the stronghold. The cliff is extremely steep, and there are strange rocks everywhere. It is almost impossible to launch a surprise attack from the back. Unless what? There is a mountain about a kilometer away from the cliff. It is easy to climb. However, how to cross this obstacle of kilometer is a big problem. Even if we use a zip line, there is no way to fix the rope to the other side of the cliff." Lung Qian clearly did not hold out much hope. Ouyang Shuo thought of Binger's pet, Snow, and said, "I have a way to fix the rope." Ouyang Shuo thought of Binger's pet, Snow. Although she was pocket-sized, she was a top-notch artificial intelligence. After entering the game, she was only an ornamental pet, but she was extremely strong and could fly. There was no one more suitable for Snow to complete this mission. Although he knew that the Marquis would not lie, Lung Qian was still a little surprised. Ouyang Shuo waved his hand and said, "The Military Intelligence Department will carefully investigate the mountain on the other side and find a safe path up the mountain. The army will set off tomorrow." Yes. After Lung Qian left, Ouyang Shuo told the head of military affairs, Gu Hongliang, to urge the Combat Readiness Department to prepare zip lines, fuel, and other resources to ensure that Operation Mountain Cat could be carried out smoothly. At the same time, in order to reduce casualties, Ouyang Shuo ordered that 2 saber and shield battalions and 1 archer battalion be temporarily reorganized from the reserve troops to follow the army. In order to eliminate the bandits in the Evil Lion Ridge, Shanghai County mobilized more than 6,500 regular soldiers, which was the largest military operation in history. By the time they finished discussing the details of Operation Mountain Cat, it was already 5:30 in the afternoon. He had just returned to the Marquis mansion, and he had to set off to eliminate the bandits the next day. During dinner, Ouyang Shuo looked at Snow, who was standing on Binger's shoulder, and said, "Good Snow, I'll take you out to play tomorrow, okay?" Snow's eyes lit up, and she immediately flew over. She flew around Ouyang Shuo's head and said in a childish voice, go out to play, la la la." Binger's eyes also lit up. She giggled and said, "Brother, can Binger go out to play too?" Ouyang Shuo shook his head firmly. "No, you have to go to school tomorrow." Binger's little face immediately fell. She angrily poked the rice in her bowl with her chopsticks and mumbled, biased, bad brother." Ouyang Shuo smiled bitterly and had to explain, "Tomorrow I'll take Snow out for something important, not to really go out to play." "Really?" Binger was a little skeptical. Ouyang Shuo glared at her. "What did I ever lie to you?" "All right, Binger forgives you." The little girl's emotions came and went quickly. To be continued. Chapter 231. At night, Ouyang Shuo and Song Jia chatted in the pavilion. How is the sect? Is it going well? Yeah, it's basically on the right track. But you just came back and you're leaving tomorrow. It can't be helped. This is a crucial period. Black Cloak's ambition and military kill Ripper had disrupted Ouyang Shuo's plans and affected his strategy of raising venomous insects. Ouyang Shuo had to prepare a series of measures to make up for the loss. Because of this turmoil, not only did he have to eliminate the evil Lion Ridge, but the Moon Island battle that Pei Donglai had planned was also delayed. The North Sea Fleet, which had just been formed, had to be rebuilt after he transferred a battalion away. Good men fight everywhere. Blockhead, you are becoming more and more heroic. Song Jia teased. Ouyang Shuo shook his head and thought of something. Sect leader Song, Eastern Fin Sword faction, can consider recruiting some players. You can contact Ani and ask her to help you. I think so too. Sects are all NPCs. So boring. Song Jia nodded in agreement. All right, Binger has been bothering me recently, saying that she wants to be my disciple. That little girl is envious of Tian Chi's attire. The attire that Song Jia mentioned was the Eastern Fin Sword faction's attire. It was designed by Qing and decorated with cloud dragon patterns. It was a Taoist robe that looked very elegant. You agreed? Uh-huh. I wouldn't dare to without the approval of a certain demon who has a sister complex. Ouyang Shuo laughed and shook his head, ignoring Song Jia's teasing. Binger is still young. She should focus on her studies. Moreover, the 90 manual is not suitable for her to cultivate. Let's talk about it in the future. I'll listen to you. The moon was setting in the west, and the wind was blowing. A beautiful couple was confiding in each other in the pavilion. Before they knew it, it was already late at night. On the afternoon of the second day, all the troops gathered at Poolwater County. The road from Poolwater County to Mystic Bird Tribe had already been repaired. It was the best way to enter the forest from Shanghai County. The troops would stay at Mystic Bird Tribe for a night before heading into the forest. When the barbarian tribes in the central region learned that Shanghai County had finally sent out an army to help them eradicate the evil Lion Mountain Range bandits, they were naturally elated. To avoid alerting the enemy, Ouyang Shuo refused the barbarian tribe's request to send troops to help. Apart from the Mystic Bird Tribe, the army didn't enter any of the mountain barbarian tribes. They stealthily avoided the bandits' area of activity and rushed toward the evil Lion Ridge. On the afternoon of September 21st, the army arrived near the evil Lion Ridge. Zhao Sihu led 2 temporarily reorganized sword and shield battalions and an archer battalion to pretend to attack the front of the evil Lion Ridge to attract the attention of the bandits. The main force of the army went around the evil Lion Ridge and sneaked in a mountain behind it. Bandit Mountain Stronghold, Ji Hall. Leader, the brothers at the foot of the mountain have recently discovered that there are people of unknown origins passing by the foot of the mountain from time to time. They are acting suspiciously, as if someone is plotting against our mountain stronghold. The one who spoke was the inept military advisor. The first leader was tall and burly with a coarse appearance. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes, and his face was covered with a full beard. He sat at the head of the table like a gorilla. At this moment, he was bare-chested, showing off his thick and exuberant chest hair. 2 barbarian girls who were captured knelt on both sides of him and massaged his body. The scene was extremely enchanting. Military advisor, you're worrying too much. Who can attack our evil Lion Ridge? Although the first leader looked coarse, he spoke with great literary talent, which was completely different from his appearance. The unique geographical environment of the evil Lion Ridge allowed these bandits to live a comfortable life. Their scale was also growing. If they continued to develop like this, they would really become a tyrant in the mountain. The military advisor was just giving a routine reminder. He himself didn't believe it either. Seeing that the first leader didn't care at all, he tactfully left the Ji Hall. He hadn't taken a few steps when he heard the soft panting of a young girl coming from the Ji Hall behind him. Early in the morning, the mountain forest was filled with fog. The sun rose from the top of the mountain. The orange-red sunlight tried its best to penetrate the thick fog, scattering sparse rays of light that couldn't bring any warmth to people. Shui stopped on Ouyang Shua's shoulder with an excited expression. The little fellow had an unusual passion for the mountain forest. Ouyang Shua took out a zip line from his storage pouch and passed one into Shui. "My good Shui, do you see the cliff on the other side?" Ouyang Shua pointed at the cliff a kilometer away. "Yes, I see it. Now, I'll give you a mission. Tie the rope to the cliff on the other side. Can Shui do it?" Shui tilted her little head and said in a childish voice, "I'll try." "All right, do your best." Shui dragged the rope and effortlessly flew toward the opposite cliff. After flying far away, Shui's little body slowly turned into a small black. A rope could be seen flying in the air. Those who didn't know what was going on might even think that she had encountered a ghost. A kilometer-long rope was soaked in tung oil to reduce friction, so it wasn't light at all. Especially when she was dragging one end in the air, the center of gravity of the rope was behind her, making it even more taxing. Although Shui was miraculous, she gradually felt the strain. Beads of sweat began to form on her forehead. The little fellow was just like her little master. She had a stubborn spirit in her bones. She endured her exhaustion and continued flying forward. During the last part of the journey, her body was swaying left and right. It seemed extremely taxing. Ouyang Shua was on the other side. When he saw the rope continuously shaking, he felt both heartache and anxiety. When she finally reached the cliff, Shui was so tired that she was about to collapse. Shui had no choice but to stop on a rock to recover her strength. After resting, she followed Ouyang Shua's instructions and found a big tree. She wound a rope around the tree. The rope had already been prepared beforehand. As long as she wound it around the tree and pulled on the other end, she would be able to secure the rope firmly. Once she was done, Shui nodded her head in satisfaction and turned around to fly back. Seeing that Shui had returned without a hitch, Ouyang Shua took out a handkerchief and carefully wiped the beads of sweat off the little fellow's forehead. Shui was obviously not used to being wiped and giggled. Seeing that the little fellow was in such good spirits, Ouyang Shua finally felt relieved. Ouyang Shua first arranged for a personal guard to check the zipline's reliability. The personal guard did not hesitate. He attached the zipline to the taut rope and slid to the other side. The journey was extremely smooth. When the personal guard arrived, he once again checked the rope around the tree. After confirming that there were no problems, he took out a small red flag from his bosom and waved it towards the opposite mountain peak. After confirming that it was safe, the various troops began to pass through the zipline. Considering the impending battle, Ouyang Shua was worried that Shui would follow them. He arranged for 2 personal guards to stay on the mountain peak to protect Shui. After the operation was over, they would rush over to join the main troops. After the army gathered at the back mountain of the Evil Lion Ridge, the spy from the Military Intelligence Bureau released the hummingbirds and informed Zhao Si's troops that were lying in ambush at the foot of the mountain, ordering them to immediately launch a feint attack on the Evil Lion Ridge. The 5,000 troops completely occupied the back mountain. What Ouyang Shua was most worried about now was that bandits would run to the back mountain and discover their tracks. Just at this moment, a conversation came from the front. It was really like getting what one wanted. "Oh man, did that gorilla bully you again yesterday?" Following that, the sound of a young girl crying could be heard. "Living like this, I'd rather die. Oh man, believe me, I will definitely save you and bring you out of this abyss of suffering." Ouyang Shua shook his head. He did not expect that it would be a pair of ill-fated mandarin ducks. He signaled Wang Feng with his eyes to capture the 2 of them, but remember not to take their lives. Wang Feng understood and secretly led the 2 personal guards to sneak up. "Who are you?" Just as the young girl let out a cry, her mouth was covered by the personal guards, and she was knocked unconscious on the ground. The personal guards nimbly tied the 2 of them up with ropes, gagged their mouths with rags, and dragged them behind a boulder. After this small interlude, the back mountain was completely calm. The front mountain, Zhao Si's troops. The spy from the Military Intelligence Bureau received the hummingbird's message. After translating the order, he reported it to the commanding general, Zhao Sihu. After Zhao Sihu received the order, he was shocked. "Give the order, everyone attack." Yes. The densely packed troops appeared from the mountain forest where they were hiding and went straight to the first checkpoint that the bandits had set up in the Evil Lion Ridge. The first thing they encountered was the patrol team that the bandits had arranged at the foot of the mountain. "Who are you?" The pitiful bandits still did not understand the situation. "The people who will take your lives." Zhao Sihu took the lead. With a shake of his long spear, it quickly pierced into the abdomen of one of the bandits. The bandit immediately fell to the ground in pain. After cleanly and efficiently getting rid of the patrol team, the troops once again set out. The first checkpoint of the Evil Lion Ridge was set up at the foot of the mountain, which was equivalent to an outpost. Therefore, the construction of the checkpoint was extremely simple. It only used wood to build a wooden wall, which was similar to the layout of a military camp. When the bandits patrolling on the wooden wall saw the enemies coming out of nowhere, they turned pale with fright and immediately sounded the alarm. Some of the bandits were already preparing to light a beacon to warn the checkpoints behind them. Zhao Sihe knew that although he was only responsible for a feint attack, if he could attract more bandits down the mountain, the pressure on the main force in the back mountain would be reduced. Therefore, his goal was to break through at least one checkpoint. Ever since the Military Intelligence Bureau was criticized by Ouyang Shaw, the three heads of the Military Intelligence Bureau had endured hardships and trained a group of capable spies. The details of the checkpoint of the Evil Lion Ridge had long been investigated by the Military Intelligence Bureau. In order to take down the checkpoint, Zhao Sihu's troops specially requested a batch of fierce fire oil from the Combat Readiness Division. The entire archer battalion soaked their arrows in the fierce fire oil, then ignited them together and shot them at the checkpoint in unison. Round after round of fire, arrows immediately ignited the checkpoint, and the fire spread rapidly. Soon, the first checkpoint turned into a sea of fire. The blazing fire did not even need a beacon to warn them. The bandits at the second checkpoint, set up halfway up the mountain, could see it clearly. The bandits at the second checkpoint did not dare to be negligent. They directly rang the bronze bell 7 times, which meant that a powerful enemy was attacking. The situation was urgent, and they were requesting reinforcements. Then, they ignited the beacon to inform the third checkpoint. The report of the attack was passed along the way and finally reached the first master. The first master had worked hard last night and had not woken up yet. When he heard the report from his subordinates, he could not care less about his naked body on the bed. He hurriedly put on his clothes and went straight to the Hall of Righteousness. To be continued. Chapter 232. Evil Lion Ridge, Bandit Stronghold Hall. What's the situation? The great master who rushed over asked sternly, emitting a frightening aura as if he wanted to devour someone. Who has the guts to attack our stronghold? It's a group of regular soldiers, more than 1,500 people. They used fire arrows to burn down the first checkpoint. The inept military advisor already had first-hand information. How dare they? When the great master heard that there were less than 2,000 people, he became even more furious. Order the brothers to defend the second checkpoint and kill them. Yes. The military advisor ran down to give the order. At the foot of the mountain, looking at the burning checkpoint, Zhao Sihu was unmoved. Inside the checkpoint, the bandits who couldn't escape in time let out miserable cries as they were burned alive. Although some bandits escaped the checkpoint, their backs were unfortunately on fire. They were so scared that they quickly rolled on the ground and asked for help from their companions. The burning checkpoint also stopped Zhao Sihu's troops from advancing. The fire burned for almost an hour before it gradually weakened. Zhao Sihu ordered the sword and shield soldiers to get branches to put out the fire and clear a path for the army to advance. 20 minutes later, the army continued to advance. Along the way, they could no longer see a single bandit. They all retreated to the second checkpoint halfway up the mountain. Zhao Sihu knew that the real test had just begun. He looked at the checkpoint in front of him that was built with stone. Attacking with fire was no longer effective. The checkpoint was easy to defend and hard to attack. With just the troops in his hands, it was as difficult as ascending to heaven. The bandit leader stood on the wall and shouted, "Who are you? How dare you break through my checkpoint and intrude into my stronghold? The people who will take your dog lives. You are heartless and rob the mountain barbarians. Your crimes are unforgivable." Ha! The bandits seem to have heard the biggest joke in the world. You want to enforce justice on behalf of heaven? Ha! Go home and take your children. Ha ha ha! The group of bandits laughed loudly and ridiculed him to the extreme. Zhao Sihu was unmoved. He shouted at the bandits on the checkpoint, "A group of cowards. What's there to be proud of? Do you dare to come out and fight with your grandpa?" The soldiers supported their commanding general and joined in the ridicule. What grandson of a turtle, little brat, coward, in any case, they scolded him as harshly as they could. "You!" The bandit leader was furious. "Shoot! Shoot them! Shoot them!" Upon receiving the order, the bandit archers knocked their arrows and rained down on the enemy troops below the checkpoint. Zhao Sihu was already prepared. The sword and shield soldier raised a shield in his hand to block the rain of arrows and slowly retreated until he was out of the enemy's shooting range. Ah! The bandit leader became smug again. Who's the coward now? As a general who was highly regarded by Ouyang Shah, Zhao Sihu was not simple. Seeing that the bandits did not fall for his trick, he observed the direction of the wind and came up with a plan. He ordered his soldiers to chop wet branches and pour oil on them. The soldiers with shields on their heads braved the rain of arrows and piled up piles of branches at the bottom of the checkpoint. The bandits at the checkpoint didn't recognize the fierce kerosene at all. Looking at Zhao Sihu's actions, they were baffled. They had no idea what the other party was planning. When the sword and shield soldier retreated, Zhao Sihu repeated the same trick and ignited the branches with fire arrows. For a moment, thick smoke rose from the pile of firewood and made a crackling sound. At this time, the wind was blowing in the direction of the checkpoint. The thick smoke took advantage of the wind and floated into the checkpoint, quickly spreading out. The bandit leader suddenly realized that he had fallen for the other party's trick. Despicable! His trick again. The thick smoke shrouded the entire checkpoint. The bandits on the wall soon couldn't stand it and were suffocated by the smoke. They had no choice but to leave the wall and flee. Zhao Sihu seized the opportunity and ordered his troops to break through the checkpoint gate. Before the attack, Zhao Sihu ordered every soldier to take out a water bottle and tear off a piece of cloth. They wet the cloth with water and tied it to their faces, covering their noses and mouths. The bandits couldn't take care of themselves, and there were no archers on the wall to interfere. The gate was quickly taken down. While Zhao Sihu ordered the archers to remove the branches, he led the sword and shield soldiers into the checkpoint against the thick smoke. In the thick smoke, the bandits were like headless flies. When the enemy suddenly appeared, they immediately became frightened birds and fled in all directions, chased by the sword and shield soldiers. The thick smoke gradually dispersed. Zhao Sihu led his troops and successfully took down the second checkpoint. The stronghold, the Loyalty Gathering Hall. Reporting. The messenger ran into the Loyalty Gathering Hall, reporting to the first master. The enemy has taken down the second checkpoint and is advancing towards the third one. What? The first master stood up and the floor of the hall shook. Black skin, that useless thing. He actually lost the first checkpoint so quickly. First master, it seems that this group of soldiers isn't simple. The inept advisor reminded him in a timely manner. Yes, the first master finally took it seriously. Let's go and enter the checkpoint with me. I want to see who exactly is coming. Yes. The first master personally led 4,000 elites to the third checkpoint, which was also the most indestructible checkpoint. The checkpoint was like an iron wall, lying across the mountain road. It was simply a fortress. When Zhao Sihu saw the third checkpoint, he knew that this time, no matter what, they would not be able to take it down. The first master of the bandits appeared on top of the fortress and shouted down, "Who are you? Tell me your name. I don't kill nameless people." Zhao Sihu chuckled. A small bandit leader talking about the rules of the Jianghu was really ridiculous. He was not afraid at all. "Listen up, We are the army of Shanghai County. Surrender quickly. Huh? Shanghai County? What is that? How arrogant. The first master had never heard of this Shanghai County. Ignorant. When Zhao Sihu saw that the other party's first master had appeared at the checkpoint, he knew that his mission had been successfully completed and ordered to fire the signal flare. After the signal flare rose into the air, it exploded in the air. What are they doing? Could it be that they are calling for reinforcements? The bandits were confused. At the back of the evil Lion Ridge, the main force of Shanghai County was at the back of the mountain. After waiting in fear for 2 hours, they finally saw the signal flare rise into the air. Ouyang Shuo was shocked. He stood up and said, "Everyone attack! Kill!" The majestic army ran out from their hiding place at the back of the mountain and killed their way into the stronghold. Before they set off, Ouyang Shuo ordered his guards to wake up the pair of ill-fated mandarin ducks and untie them. When a man woke up and saw Ouyang Shuo and the others, he was so surprised that he could not speak. He stammered, You, who are you? Why are you here?" Ouyang Shuo shook his head. He was a little disappointed. On the other hand, the barbarian girl was very calm after waking up. She asked nervously, "Are you here to annihilate this stronghold?" "Yes, I'm the Lord of Shanghai County. I was entrusted by the surrounding barbarian tribes to annihilate this stronghold. Can you lead the way for us?" Ouyang Shuo explained where he came from. Hearing that they were really their saviors, the barbarian girl cried tears of joy. "I know the way. Follow me." Under the barbarian girl's lead, the troops did not take any detours and successfully broke into the core area of the stronghold. At this moment, more than half of the fighting bandits in the stronghold had been transferred to the checkpoint by the first master. When the remaining bandits saw the troops descending from the sky, they could not help but turn pale with fright. Other than the guards, most of the bandits usually did not carry weapons with them. They would only go to the armory to collect weapons when they were on a mission. Therefore, the elite troops of Shanghai County were faced with such a group of unarmed bandits. Massacre. Only massacre could describe the tragedy that happened in the stronghold. Among the troops, there were 2,000 barbarian soldiers. Most of them came from the barbarian tribes that had been bullied by the bandits. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn especially red. At this moment, the barbarian soldiers' eyes were bloodshot. They killed anyone they saw in the stronghold. It did not matter if they were fighting or non-fighting bandits. Some bandits tried to surrender, but they were still brutally killed. When Ouyang Shuo heard the news, he immediately sent his guards to stop the massacre of the barbarian soldiers. Time was so precious now. They had to eliminate the fighting bandits in the stronghold before the bandits at the checkpoint returned. They did not have time to waste on non-fighting bandits. Moreover, the army was not an executioner. Unless they had no other choice, Ouyang Shuo did not want the soldiers to attack ordinary people who could not fight back. After entering the stronghold, the first thing Ouyang Shuo did was to order his guards to occupy the stronghold's gate. The archers took over the arrow towers of the stronghold and guarded against reinforcements. The stronghold was filled with blood. A bandit who had escaped stumbled to the checkpoint and said incoherently, Boss, bad news." The first master was puzzled by Zhao Sihu's hesitation. When he heard the report from the bandit, he could not help but feel his heart skip a beat. He quickly stepped forward and grabbed the bandit's collar. He asked angrily, "Tell me, what happened in the stronghold?" In a moment of desperation, he almost strangled the bandit to death. Cough, cough. The bandit was scared half to death. Reporting to boss, a large number of soldiers suddenly appeared in the stronghold. How is that possible? Where do they come from? How many are there? Many. I can't even count them. They suddenly attacked from the back of the mountain. The bandit was in a hurry and did not have the ability to count the number of enemies. Back of the mountain? The first master realized that the accidents that happened today were more than what he had encountered in his entire life. He muttered to himself, "The back of the mountain is a steep cliff. How do they come up?" Fortunately, the military advisor at the side was still clear-headed. "Boss, we must make a decision now. Should we go back to reinforce the stronghold, or should we just go down the mountain?" "Yes." The first master calmed his mind. We definitely can't go down the mountain. The road is too narrow. As long as they block the road, it will be useless no matter how many people we have. The first master felt somewhat bitter. They had the advantage of the evil lion ridge, but at the critical moment, they had cut off their path of retreat. Go back and fight them. The first master finally decided to fight with his back to the wall. To be continued. Chapter 233. The bandit leader of the evil lion ridge decided to lead the mountain bandits to reinforce the stronghold. When the reinforcements arrived at the stronghold, Ouyang Shua had already taken control of the entire stronghold. The combat-type bandits were either killed or imprisoned after surrendering. Looking at the tightly shut gates, the great leader was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He didn't expect the other party to be so fast. He had completely miscalculated this time. Ouyang Shua stood on the archer tower, surrounded by his personal guards. He looked down from above and said, "People outside, listen up. Your stronghold has been occupied by our army. Your path of retreat has been cut off. It's not too late to surrender now. Wolsh *T. If you have the guts, come out and fight to the death." The great leader was flustered and exasperated. Ouyang Shua knew that if he didn't get rid of this great leader, he wouldn't be able to get the bandits to surrender. "All right, I'll fulfill your wish." Then he turned around and asked, "Who will go out and kill this guy?" "Marquis, I would like to fight." The two generals, Eli and Sher Wansway, requested a fight at almost the same time. The two fierce generals, Eli and Sher Wansway, could easily deal with the bandit leader. Ouyang Shua was in a dilemma. He didn't know which one to choose. At this moment, Wang Feng stepped forward. "There's no need to use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. Marquis, I would like to fight." Ouyang Shua was startled, but he felt that it was reasonable. "All right, you will fight." "Thank you, Marquis." Wang Feng turned around and walked down the archer tower. Eli and Sher Wansway naturally enjoyed Wang Feng's flattery, so they didn't object. The gate opened. Wang Feng walked to the front of the stronghold under the protection of his personal guards. He pointed his spear at the enemy and said, "I'm Wang Feng from Shanghai County. I'm here to meet you." Seeing that the other party had actually sent out a junior to fight, the great leader felt even more indignant. "Inexperienced brat, eat my saber." As he spoke, he raised his saber and charged at Wang Feng, his aura surging. Wang Feng wasn't afraid at all. He also ran forward and blocked the opponent's saber with his spear. Both weapons were made of fine iron, so they were evenly matched. The eight extremities fist was the most suitable match for a spear. In Wang Feng's hands, the refined iron spear was fierce and cold. His movements were bold and unrestrained, perfectly integrating the essence of the eight extremities fist into his spear techniques. The saber and spear clashed together, and a massive force passed through the saber. The great leader's right hand went numb, and in a moment of carelessness, the saber almost flew out of his hand. He was startled and no longer dared to underestimate the other party. For the first leader to be able to suppress a group of mountain bandits, he naturally had strength. His broadsword was strong and heavy, and he was also very experienced. Both sides were evenly matched, and they both took the tough and fierce path. They fought back and forth, and it was hard to separate them. On the watchtower, the two experts, Eli and Sher Wansway, were very satisfied with Wang Feng's performance and occasionally made a few comments. Seeing their commander display his might, the soldiers of the personal guard camp began to cheer for Wang Feng. Not to be outdone, the bandits on the other side also cheered them on. As the two sides competed, they began to compete in the loudness of their voices. The fervent atmosphere stimulated the adrenaline of both sides, and the battle instantly reached its climax. Every move was aimed at the other's vital points, wanting to kill the other party. Ouyang Shua knew that this kind of evenly matched battle was an extremely rare opportunity for Wang Feng. Who knows, Wang Feng might be able to use this opportunity to break through his bottleneck and become a mid-level general. Ouyang Shua was not a gentleman. In order to ensure Wang Feng's safety, he had already secretly instructed Sher Wansway to immediately kill the bandit leader if the situation became dangerous. Fortunately, it did not come to this in the end. The constant pressure from the bandit leader had completely stimulated Wang Feng's potential. Wang Feng first used the rubbing kick to suddenly get close to the other party, then shook his spear and used the 8 extremities fist mountain lean. The spear was like a deadly, poisonous snake, suddenly sticking to the other party's broadsword and sliding down, knocking the broadsword away. That was not all. The spear continued to stick to the other party's hand, and with a shake, the broadsword immediately flew out of the other party's hand and fell to the ground. After the broadsword flew out of the other party's hand, the first leader's face turned pale, and he muttered to himself, "My life is over." As expected, after knocking away the other party's weapon, Wang Feng followed up with another attack. The spear shook again and stabbed forward, as fast as lightning, directly piercing through the other party's chest. The shouts of the bandits came to an abrupt end. Wang Feng lifted his spear and pulled it out of the other party's chest. Blood spurted out. The first leader's eyes widened in unwillingness, and he fell to the ground, dead. After killing the other party, Wang Feng actually closed his eyes, as if he was comprehending the battle just now. In front of the stronghold, facing Wang Feng, who was standing with his eyes closed, the bandits were stunned, and for a moment, they did not dare to move forward. Kill him. Take revenge for the first leader. Finally, a bandit reacted. Protect the general. The personal guards reacted quickly and immediately went forward to protect Wang Feng. Ouyang Shuo did not stay idle on the arrow tower and ordered the archers to release arrows. Wave after wave of arrows shot into the group of bandits, immediately causing a large number of casualties. This time, the bandits realized that the other party occupied the stronghold and had the geographical advantage. For a moment, they all retreated, covering their heads and scurrying away. Ouyang Shuo knew that the outcome had been decided and said to Eli and Shi Wansui with a smile, "Come, let's go out." Yes. After Ouyang Shuo left the stronghold, he looked at the bandits in front of him. Still not surrendering? Otherwise, don't blame me for killing all of you. The bandits knew that the situation was hopeless and immediately split into 2 groups. One group put down their weapons and surrendered, and the other group ran away. Those who wanted to escape were naturally the most vicious and evil people. They knew that even if they surrendered, they would not have a good ending, so they might as well run for their lives and fight for a chance of survival. As for those who wanted to escape, Ouyang Shuo naturally would not be lenient, and gave the order to chase and kill them. The evil Lion Ridge's terrain was dangerous. Other than the path down a mountain, the other places were all dangerous peaks, and jumping down from there was a slim chance of survival. The bandits knew that the path down the mountain was blocked by the other party, and the only way out was to directly jump down the mountain and fight for that last chance of survival. This group of bandits usually did many evil things, but at the crucial moment, they were willing to throw caution to the wind. It was a pity that the archers blocked the bandits' last chance of survival. The archers lined up densely on the side of the cliff, shooting arrows down the mountain. Before the bandits could run far, they were all hit by the arrows and fell to the ground, their corpses rolling down the mountain. Only a small number of bandits managed to escape, but they were no longer a threat. Ouyang Shuo still did not want to let them go, and ordered Zhao Sihu's troops to immediately go down the mountain and search for the remaining bandits. After dealing with the bandits, Ouyang Shuo returned to the bandit leader's corpse. Just now, on the archer tower, he had discovered that the bandit leader's corpse seemed to have dropped an item. Ouyang Shuo walked over to take a look, and sure enough, there was a token lying under the bandit leader's corpse. Taking it out, he couldn't help but be overjoyed. It was an extremely rare summoning token. Summoning Talisman, King level, randomly summons a King level historical figure to serve you. Ouyang Shuo put the summoning talisman into his spatial bag, preparing to summon it when he returned. After taking in the bandits, Ouyang Shuo gave the order to search the stronghold and take away all the resources that could be taken away. At this moment, the barbarian girl ran over. "Benefactor, I know that the bandit leader has a secret room. I am willing to lead the way for Benefactor." Ouyang Shuo was overjoyed. "Good, let's go." Ouyang Shuo left behind a company of personal guards to protect Wang Feng while he brought the rest of his personal guards to follow the barbarian girl. The secret room was in the bandit leader's bedroom. There was a secret passage under the bed that led directly to the secret room. The personal guard were worried about Ouyang Shuo's safety, so they walked into the secret passage first. Before long, they came back with a pale face and an angry expression. Marquis, there are many women imprisoned under the secret room. The scene is extremely pitiful. Ouyang Shuo was startled. He turned to look at the barbarian girl and said, "Did you bring us here to save them?" The barbarian girl didn't panic. She calmly said, "I don't dare to lie to Benefactor, but I do have this intention. However, I didn't lie to Benefactor. That evil person's treasure is also hidden in the secret room." Ouyang Shuo nodded. "Let's go. We'll go down together." There were torches on both sides of the secret passage, so it wasn't as dark as they had imagined. Following the wet steps, he walked all the way underground. Ouyang Shuo calculated in his heart. After walking about 70 or 80 steps, they arrived at an underground hall. The hall was also brightly lit. As far as the eye could see, the floor of the hall was covered with thick animal furs. The only thing that wasn't treated well was hay. No less than 100 women were lying on the furs with lifeless eyes. Their clothes didn't cover their bodies. When they saw the newcomers, they didn't panic or show any joy. They were already numb. Ouyang Shuo also noticed that there were more than a dozen women curled up in the corner of the hall. Their situation was even worse. They were skinny, their hair was disheveled, and their bodies emitted a foul stench. These women were curled up on the cold and wet floor, suffering. Even though Ouyang Shuo had a heart of stone, he was still furious when he saw the scene in front of him. It was obvious that these women were the playthings of the dead bandit leader. They were imprisoned in the secret room, never to see the light of day. The barbarian girl walked up to the group of women, crying and laughing at the same time. "Sisters, we're saved." She pointed at Ouyang Shuo. "This young master is the lord of Shanghai County. He was entrusted by our clansmen to save us. That evil person has already been killed by Benefactor. I saw it with my own eyes." Hearing this, the group of women regained their senses after a long time. A trace of light finally flashed in their eyes. Vitality began to slowly flow out of their bodies, and tears unconsciously flowed down their cheeks. They originally thought that their tears had already dried up. They didn't expect that they could still escape this hellish prison. "Thank you, Benefactor." Some of the women had already regained their senses. They walked in front of Ouyang Shuo and knelt down to express their gratitude. Ouyang Shuo's personal guards helped them up one by one. He said, "Get up. There's no need to thank me. From today onwards, you're free. You can return to your respective tribes and reunite with your families." Chapter 234. Thank you, young master, for saving my life. In the secret room, the rescued woman once again thanked Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo waved his hand, turned around, and ordered his personal guards to rush to the top of the secret room and find some clothes for the imprisoned woman to wear. Then he escorted them back to the surface. After these matters were taken care of, Ouyang Shuo was led by the barbarian girl into the secret room where the bandit leader stored his treasures. The secret room was directly connected to the hall, built on the left side of the hall. A bandit leader's secret room, of course, didn't have any hidden mechanisms, just a thick wooden door, which was directly broken by the personal guards. After breaking the door, they saw rows of large chests in the secret room. Opening the chests, they saw all kinds of gold, silver, and jewels inside, emitting a dazzling light that dazzled everyone's eyes. Ouyang Shuo counted a total of 1 chest of jewels, 2 chests of gold, and 5 chests of silver. Apart from leaving 2 chests of silver, the rest of the chests were all put into Ouyang Shuo's storage pouch. What he found strange was that as the treasure chamber of the first master of the stronghold, the treasures should not be limited to these ordinary valuables. "Are there any other secret rooms?" Ouyang Shuo asked the barbarian girl. The barbarian girl shook her head and said, "This commoner only knows this one." Ouyang Shuo didn't believe it, and ordered his personal guards to carefully check again to see if there were any hidden compartments or doors. He himself didn't stay idle and knocked on the wall. Suddenly, Ouyang Shu noticed an oil lamp hanging on one side of the wall. The secret room itself didn't have a torch, and it relied entirely on the light from the hall to illuminate the secret room. So the secret room seemed a bit dusky. It was precisely because of this that this oil lamp seemed out of place in the secret room. Ouyang Shu suppressed his excitement, walked forward, and tried to turn the oil lamp. Bada! Without much effort, the oil lamp was turned by him. Then, a rumbling sound came from the secret room. The innermost wall of the secret room suddenly moved to the sides, revealing a small door that could only allow one person to pass through. Ouyang Shu had his personal guards guard outside and walked into the room alone. The space inside was very narrow. Only one or two people could stand. There was a wooden shelf in the middle of the secret room, and on the shelf were 3 boxes. Ouyang Shu opened the first box, and a soft light emitted from a box. When he looked carefully, he saw that it was a pearl the size of a pigeon egg. It felt cool in his hand. Cooling pearl has the effect of dispelling summer heat, calming the mind, and can assist in cultivation. It was a pretty good support item, but he didn't know if it could speed up the cultivation of inner force. Ouyang Shu then opened the second box and saw an ancient book inside. The cover of the ancient book had the words 5 Tiger Saber Sutra written on it. It was a king-level technique. Ouyang Shu guessed that this should be the saber technique used by the leader of the stronghold. Although the items in the first 2 boxes were not bad, they were not of much use to Ouyang Shu, causing him to be somewhat disappointed. He then opened the last box to see what kind of treasure it was. The third box was much longer than the first 2. It looked more like a box. When he opened it, he saw a deep green sword lying quietly in the sword sheath. Name: Azure Edge Sword, purple gold. Hardness: 68. Sharpness: 70. Toughness: 55. Characteristics: broken blade. When the weapon's hardness is lower than the Azure Edge Sword's, there is a chance of breaking it. Remarks: the Azure Edge Sword is said to be a pair, known as the Azure Edge Twin Swords. It was originally Liu Bei's weapon during the 3 Kingdoms period. Liu Bei attacked Eastern Wu in order to avenge Sun Quan's murder of his sworn brother, Guan Yu. Later, Eastern Wu's governor, Lu Sun, set fire to the camp. Liu Bei fled in a hurry and accidentally lost one of the Azure Edge Twin Swords. Treasure. It was definitely a treasure. This was the only purple gold weapon that Ouyang Shu had obtained since the start of the server. It could also be the only purple gold weapon in the game. Other than the usual hardness and toughness, the sharpness attribute of the Azure Edge Sword had also been added. More importantly, it came with the broken blade attribute. With the hardness attribute of the Azure Edge Sword, as long as the opponent's weapon wasn't a godly weapon, there was a high chance of activating the broken blade attribute. This was very scary. Think about it. In a battle, your weapon could be broken by the opponent's weapon at any time. If that happened, would you still be able to focus on the enemy? It was very difficult. It was indeed a good sword. Unfortunately, Ouyang Shu didn't specialize in swordsmanship. A player's energy was limited. Since Ouyang Shu had chosen the spear as his main weapon, he wouldn't be distracted. Ouyang Shu closed the 3 boxes and put them in his storage bag. He then walked out of the secret room. After coming out, Ouyang Shu didn't stay any longer. He ordered the guards to carry the 2 boxes of silver into the room. As soon as he walked out of the secret room, Wang Feng rushed over. He couldn't hide the joy on his face. Ouyang Shu's heart skipped a beat. He asked, "Did you advance?" Wang Feng nodded vigorously. "I didn't disappoint Marquis. I was lucky enough to advance to the intermediate general rank." "Good. I've gained another general." Ouyang Shu was overjoyed. Ouyang Shu took the opportunity to check Wang Feng's attributes. Name: Wang Feng Gold. Identity: Shanghai County Guard Battalion Commander. Occupation: Intermediate General. Loyalty: 95. Commander: 55. Martial Power: 75. Intelligence: 40. Politics: 35. Specialty: Death Battle. Increases troop morale by 20. Rapid Assault. Increases troop movement speed by 20. Martial Arts: Bajiquan Scripture. Equipment: Soldier's Radiant Armor. Fine Iron Spear. Remarks: Fistmaster Lin Yu's eldest direct disciple. Introverted, chivalrous, loyal, and courageous. After Wang Feng returned, he led the guard battalion to assist in the search of the stronghold. At 11 o'clock in the morning, the search of the stronghold was almost over. Ouyang Shua announced that the 2 boxes of silver seized from the secret room would be distributed to the soldiers who had participated in this operation. This was a reward for the soldiers, and it won a burst of applause and cheers. After counting, a total of 10,850 mountain bandits were captured, of which 4,750 were combat bandits. Excluding the treasures in the secret room, a total of 5,800 gold coins were seized, and countless supplies were seized. Ouyang Shua put the important supplies into a storage bag and left the ordinary supplies like food. He had already ordered the military intelligence department to inform the mountain barbarian tribes to receive this batch of supplies. Ouyang Shua did this for 2 reasons. First, it was inconvenient to transport food, and second, it was an opportunity to win the hearts of the people. Ouyang Shua was very grateful that the mountain barbarian troops didn't give up on cooperating with Shanghai County because they went back on their word. As for weapons, equipment, and other military supplies, they naturally had to be brought back to Shanghai County. The weapons and equipment of the bandit stronghold were mainly weapons. There were sabers, spears, swords, halberds, and many other strange weapons, which were very suitable for the style of bandits. These weapons naturally couldn't be used to equip the regular army. They could only be entrusted to Snow Rose to be sold to the players. After the inventory was done, Ouyang Shua assembled the troops and prepared to escort the prisoners down the mountain and set off for Shanghai County. At this moment, the barbarian girl led the 120 or so rescued girls to Ouyang Shua. They all knelt down and sobbed. "Marquis, please take us in." They had taken advantage of this time to find out Ouyang Shua's identity. Ouyang Shua frowned and said, "Are you not willing to return to your respective tribes?" The barbarian girl was still the representative. The girl's expression was sorrowful, and her eyes couldn't hide the pain. "Marquis, we are already withered. How can we have the face to return to our tribes and our parents? Even if we go back, we will only bring shame to our loved ones. It is no different from death. Since we were saved by Marquis, I just want to spend the rest of my life in a strange place. I beg Marquis to take us in. Marquis, please take us in." The girls kowtowed again. Ouyang Shua was silent. The scene in front of him reminded him of the girls who were rescued from the bandit camp. Their experiences were so similar. Even though they were rescued by luck, they were restricted by the ancient concept of chastity. They felt inferior and had an extreme inferiority complex. "What's your name? I remember that there was a man who wanted to rescue you, right? Why? Do you also want to settle down in Shanghai County?" Ouyang Shua asked the barbarian girl. Ouyang Shua's words had undoubtedly poked at the girl's sore spot. The girl had been holding back her tears, but they suddenly burst out, and she burst into tears. Fortunately, her bodyguards were tactful and came forward to tell Ouyang Shua what had happened while he was away. It turned out that the man who was knocked unconscious by them in the morning had solemnly vowed that once he saw that the bandit camp had been destroyed and he had regained his freedom, he immediately started to despise the barbarian girl for not being a virgin anymore. He abandoned the barbarian girl and went down the mountain alone to return to his tribe. After Ouyang Shua heard this, he shook his head with a wry smile. This was really an old story. This was the reality. In the real world, many people were virgins. Moreover, in ancient society, women were born in a weak position. Ouyang Shua didn't know how to comfort them. He could only order his bodyguards to bring these girls back. The main force escorted the captives and supplies to the foot of the mountain to meet up with Zhao Sihu's troops. At the foot of the mountain, the bodyguards were left behind by Ouyang Shua to protect Shui Er also rushed over. When Shui Er saw Ouyang Shua, she happily flew over and perched on his shoulder. "Good Shui Er, you've made a great contribution this time. Tell me, what reward do you want?" The little fellow's eyes lit up. She said in a childish voice, "Candy, candy." As she spoke, she unconsciously put her finger into her mouth and sucked. Ouyang Shuo shook his head with a wry smile. The little fellow had really been led astray by Bing. She had turned into a little gluttonous cat. However, he still kept his promise. He smiled and said, "Okay, when we go back, I'll prepare a big box for you. It's enough." The candy the Shui heir mentioned was the maltose candy that the residents of the territory made from glutinous rice. It was very sweet, but the little fellow loved it so much. Shui heir's eyes immediately narrowed. The little fellow suddenly flew up and pecked Ouyang Shuo's face. Then, she flew back and forth above Ouyang Shuo's head, looking very happy. To be continued. Chapter 235. After exchanging greetings, Zhao Sihu came to report. "Marquis, all the bandits have been killed." Ouyang Shuo nodded and said with a smile, "General Zhao, not bad. You've made a great contribution this time, leading your troops to successively break through 2 checkpoints and drawing more than half of the roving bandits out of the stronghold, laying the foundation for the victory of suppressing the bandits. You deserve to be rewarded. This is my duty. I don't deserve the Marquis praise." Zhao Sihu was a little excited. Ouyang Shuo waved his hand and took out the 5 tiger saber scripture he had just obtained from his storage pouch. He gave it to Zhao Sihu and said, "This Marquis will bestow this 5 tiger saber scripture to you. I hope you will diligently practice it and become a fierce tiger in the army." Zhao Sihu excitedly took the secret manual and knelt down on one knee. "Thank you, Marquis, for your reward." Ouyang Shuo then took out a chest of silver and said, "Distribute these silver coins to the soldiers to show their merits." Here, after the rewards were given, the army officially set off. On the afternoon of the 25th day of the 9th month of the 1st year of Gaia, Ouyang Shuo led his troops back to Shanghai County. After returning, he handed over the captives and supplies to the Military Affairs Department and the Internal Affairs Department to handle. The military office was responsible for selecting reserve members from the Fighting Mountain Bandits. Other than that, the Combat Readiness Division of the Military Affairs Department was also responsible for registering all military supplies and storing them in the armory. The Ministry of Internal Affairs was responsible for identifying war criminals, handing over the most vicious criminals to the Disciplinary Division for execution. The remaining bandits were temporarily placed outside the city by the Census Bureau. Ouyang Shuo had other plans for these bandits. Back at the Marquis' mansion, Ouyang Shuo handed the remaining 2 chests of silver and 1 chest of jewels to Zisu. She was in charge of keeping the treasures in the Marquis' mansion's inner treasury. Of course, Ouyang Shuo did not forget to remind Zisu to prepare a box of malt candy for Snow. Ouyang Shuo temporarily kept the 2 chests of gold seized from the secret room. Adding the remaining funds from before and the funds seized from the stronghold, Ouyang Shuo had a total of 31,000 gold coins in his storage pouch. After dealing with the trivial matters, Ouyang Shuo took out the biggest reward from this bandit extermination, the king-level summoning talisman. Ouyang Shuo tore open the summoning talisman, and with a flash of white light, a young general riding a white horse appeared. System notification. Congratulations to player Wui for successfully subduing the historical character Luo Shixin, King Luo Shixin. The young general immediately dismounted and knelt down on one knee. He cupped his fists and said solemnly, Luo Shi, King Luo King. Luo Shixin was originally a general under the command of Zhang Shuta, the commander of Qi County during the Sui dynasty. He accompanied Zhang Shutuo in the punitive campaign against the peasant rebels. Later, he surrendered to the Wagong army and was given the position of Zhongguan. Because he despised Wang Shichong, he led his troops to surrender to Great Tang and was made the chief of the Shanzhou army. He assassinated Wang Xianying and took down Thousand Gold Castle. He followed Li Shimin to pacify Luoyang and was made the chief of Jiangzhou and the Duke of Shan. Compared to other historical figures, Luo Shixin's most distinctive characteristic was his youth. Luo Shixin joined the army at the age of 14. In the 5th year of Wuda, he was captured during the Battle of Mingshui and killed by Lu Haida. He was only 23. Lude, and if he or one Lu, and, or, Ouyang Shuo was overjoyed. He stepped forward and helped Luo Shirshin up. General, please get up. After Luo Shirshin got up, Ouyang Shuo took the opportunity to check his attributes. Name, Luo Shirshin, King Level, Dynasty, Sui and Tang Identity, Shanghai County General, Occupation, High-Level General, Loyalty, 80 Commander, 70 Force, 85 Intelligence, 50 Politics, 35 Skills, Bravery, increases attack power by 20, Rapid Attack, increases marching speed by 20. Technique, Overlord Spear Scripture, Equipment, Iron Overlord Spear Evaluation. A soldier will be the vanguard, and if he gains something, he will take off his clothes and horse and give them to those who have done well. However, the law is strict, and the soldiers will not be complacent. Luo Shirshin's arrival was like a timely rain for Ouyang Shuo. He was worried about the lack of high-level generals, so he could not continue to expand his army. With Luo Shirshin, the problem was mostly solved. Because it was late, it was inconvenient to talk. Ouyang Shuo introduced Luo Shirshin to Gu Hongliang, the head of the Military Affairs Office, and asked him to receive him. The specific arrangements would be discussed the next day. During dinner, Ouyang Shuo asked Song Jia, "How is the construction of the Eastern Fence Sword Sect going?" "It's almost finished. The opening ceremony will be held on October 1st. Song Jia looked a little excited. Ouyang Shuo nodded and said with a smile, "Well, I really have to call you Leader Song. On the day of the ceremony, I will give you a big gift." Song Jia's eyes lit up. With Ouyang Shuo's current status, the gift he mentioned must be very important. She asked curiously, "What gift?" "You will know when the time comes." Ouyang Shuo kept her in suspense. "Humph, if you don't want to say it, then don't say it." September 26th, 10 o'clock in the morning. While the generals of the 1st Brigade and the 3rd Brigade had not returned to their barracks, Ouyang Shuo hosted a military and political meeting in Shanghai County. This was the first military and political meeting held in Shanghai County since the establishment of the Military Affairs Office and the formal separation of the military and the government. In the government system, all the officials above the director level were present. In the military system, as long as they could come in time, all the generals above the battalion commander level were present. In addition, Ouyang Shuo also invited experts to attend the meeting. In September, Ouyang Shuo spent most of his time outside and couldn't take care of the territory's government affairs. Fortunately, there were several directors in charge of the government affairs, so there was no big mess, but there were also no outstanding achievements. Ouyang Shuo spent the rest of his time in the military thinking about the territory's future development plan and the formulation of the territory's strategy, apart from dealing with the war situation. With the rapid expansion of the territory and the introduction of a large number of player groups, Shanghai County seemed to be developing vigorously, but there were many hidden dangers inside. The most fundamental problem was the lack of direction and a clear strategic position. Due to this, Ouyang Shuo wanted to hold a military and political meeting to form a consensus. Ouyang Shuo sat on the seat of honor and said, "Minister Fan, please introduce the basic situation of the territory." "Yes." Fan Zhongyan got up and said, "At present, apart from the headquarters of Shanghai County, there are 8 subsidiary territories, including 4 counties and 4 towns. The territory covers more than half of the Lianzhou Basin. In terms of population, the population of Shanghai County has just exceeded the 80,000 mark, and the territory's total population has exceeded 240,000. In terms of finance, Beihai County, Poole District, and Yuyi County have basically achieved self-sufficiency, and their income and expenditure are approaching a balance. The newly occupied Tianfeng County, Eternal Night Town, and the other 3 subsidiary territories will require financial subsidies. Especially Tianfeng County, which is responsible for half of the construction of the Tian High Road, it will require a large amount of financial subsidies. After Fan Zhongyan left, Gahong Liang, as the military representative, took the lead to speak, reporting to the Marquis. With Shanghai County as the center, it extends to Beihai County, Poole District, and Yuyi County. The population of the central area is more than 200,000. However, the army in charge of defending the territory, including the North Sea Fleet and the city defense camp, plus the temporarily reorganized 2 sword and shield battalions and 1 archer battalion, has a total military strength of only 15,000 people. Your humble servant suggests that we should expand the army again. As expected of Ouyang Shua's confidant, Ge Hongliang's words were exactly what Ouyang Shua wanted. Ouyang Shua nodded and said, Minister Ji's suggestion is very good. It's time to expand the army. Zhao Sihu. Here. Zhao Sihu stepped forward. You will use the city defense camp, 2 sword and shield battalions, and 1 archer battalion as the foundation to form the City Guards Brigade. You will be appointed as the acting brigade commander. You will be appointed after you are officially promoted. Thank you, Marquis, for your promotion. Zhao Sihu was a little excited. With the continuous relocation of the East and West barracks, the field army is no longer able to return to the headquarters in time. Therefore, compared to the time when the city defense camp was in power, the duties of the City Guards Brigade are more important. Other than guarding the city walls and the city gates, they will also be responsible for the defense of Shanghai County. The City Guards Brigade will include 2 sword and shield battalions, 2 archer battalions, and 1 cavalry battalion. The original city defense camp's crossbowmen will be removed from the City Guards Brigade and will be under the jurisdiction of the Divine Arms Battalion. The change in the duties of the City Guards Brigade meant that it would be promoted from the 2nd rank to the 1st rank. Yes, Zhao Sihu suddenly felt that the burden on his shoulders was very heavy. Zhang Daniu, Hui Biao, Ear, both of them stepped forward. Poole Water County City Defense Camp and Friendship County City Defense Camp will be promoted to City Guards Brigade as well. Both of you will be the acting brigade commanders. Ouyang Shua expanded the City Guards Brigade in one go. Thank you, Marquis, for your promotion. After adjusting the City Guards Brigade, Ouyang Shua continued, Wang Feng. Here, the Personal Guard Battalion will be promoted to the Imperial Guards Brigade. You will be the brigade commander. Remember, the establishment of the Imperial Guards Brigade cannot be rushed. Wait for the brigades to be established and have sufficient combat power before selecting them. Wang Feng had been promoted to a mid-grade general after the battle at Evil Lion Ridge. Ouyang Shua's worries were completely eliminated, and he began to expand the direct troops on a large scale. Yes, Shanghai County was protected by the City Guards Brigade and the Imperial Guards Brigade together. With the assistance of the Divine Arms Battalion, there was nothing to worry about. Ouyang Shua looked at Luo Shixin, who was kneeling beside Ge Hongliang, and said, Luo Shixin. Here, Luo Shixin was already familiar with the structure of Shanghai County last night. He was very confident. General, you will be responsible for the establishment of the 1st Division's 4th Brigade. The 4th Brigade will be a light cavalry brigade equipped with green beetle horses and will be stationed at the West Barracks. You will be the West Barracks Deputy General and 4th Brigade Commander. Thank you, Marquis, for your promotion. Long live Shi. Yes. Shi Wan Sui stepped forward. After the 4th Brigade is established, the West Barracks should be activated. General, you will lead 2 field brigades and follow the planned area of Tianhai Road. Clear out the surrounding bandits. Yes. When Shi Wan Sui heard that there was going to be another operation, he was very excited. Since Ouyang Shua had decided to stop hiding and biding his time, he naturally had to take the initiative to attack. According to his plan, the first step was to clear out the Lianzhou Basin and provide a safe and reliable environment for the next step of building his territory. To be continued. Chapter 236. Ouyang Shua established 5 brigades in one go, adding 18 new battalions and recruiting more than 9,000 soldiers. He basically used up all of the reserve troops accumulated by the Military Affairs Office ever since the bandits attacked the city. Ouyang Shua made a rough calculation. Just the class advancement fee for this army expansion would cost 10,000 gold coins. He was earning money at a speed that other lords could not imagine, and he was also spending money at a speed that other lords could not imagine. When Ouyang Shua first entered the game, 100 gold coins was a huge sum of money. In less than a year's time, the amount of money he handled was already in the thousands. Due to the rapid expansion of the army, the average combat power of the army would inevitably decline. In addition, the supply of weapons and equipment had also begun to fall behind the pace of the army expansion. According to the military standards of Shanghai County, it was impossible to equip 100 field military bows. The main weapon of the saber and shield soldiers and the cavalry, the tang knife, could not be kept up with the progress of the weapons workshop. The 3,000 green beetle horses that were reared in the farm on the west side of the city were all used up. It was still not enough to equip the Forbidden Brigade and the 4th Brigade of the 1st Division. There was still a gap of 1,500 horses. As for the cavalry battalions of the 3 City Guard brigades, it was even more impossible to equip them with green beetle horses. A huge army was also a huge financial burden. According to the salary standards set previously, a battalion with an average rank of 4 soldiers would receive 275 gold coins per month. In the same way, a brigade's monthly salary was 1,375 gold coins. A division's monthly salary was 8,250 gold coins, and this did not include the salary of the brigade commander and division commander. Of this, the officer's pay accounted for 35%. With such a huge military expenditure, Ouyang Shuo no longer easily withheld the profits of the Wolf Mountain Mine and the Northern Twilight Salt Works. Except for special circumstances, all of them were directly allocated to the finance department. As a result, the army of Shanghai County was at its strongest, but it was also at its weakest. The military affairs were just a prelude to the military and political conference. Ouyang Shuo looked around and said, "The layout of the Marquis' mansion was decided when it was still a first-class county, and it has already been more than 4 months since then. Following the increase in the number of government officials in the various departments, the Literary Academy is starting to feel crowded. Therefore, this Marquis has decided, according to the plans of the county, to officially start the construction of the administrative district on the west side of the manor." The standard was that each division would build an independent office courtyard, and each division would form a courtyard cluster. Including the current military office, they would all be moved to the administrative district. As for the house of the Marquis, the front courtyard will be transformed into a meeting hall. Apart from the main meeting hall, there will be 2 side halls on both sides. The main conference hall was renamed as the conference hall and was only used for the monthly military and political meetings. Usually, it was held in the side hall. The front courtyard offices would all be moved to the literary courtyard. The main offices would all be moved to the literary courtyard. The change of the manor's layout was the change of the manor. Of the changes, this also meant that Ouyang Shuo had officially delegated all the affairs of the territory, and he only held the highest authority and was in charge of the overall situation. He no longer cared about the specific matters. It was precisely because Ouyang Shuo felt that the external affairs were starting to increase that he didn't have much energy to deal with the small affairs of the territory. Thus, he took the opportunity of the crowded elegant literature courtyard to boldly and decisively transform the structure of the territory. The division, and the new division would what he, it, the establishment of the establishment of the establishment was, and division was, the clear, and was. Fan Zhongyan and Tian Wenjing would definitely be able to figure out this kind of internal and profound change. Yingyu and Gu Hongliang should also have some clues. As for these directors, they were just glad that they had their own courtyard and didn't have to work under the nose of the Marquis. Su Shuda and Su Jinchang were probably the only ones who could see the deeper meaning behind it. Fan Zhongyan and Tian Wenjing looked at each other. The meaning in their eyes was clear. Ouyang Shuo didn't care about the thoughts of the people below and continued. As the affairs of the territory become more and more burdensome, the number of official letters that require this Marquis to read also increases. It's difficult to rely on the clerk alone. For this reason, this Marquis has decided to establish a secretary's office to handle official correspondence. Bai Nanpu will be appointed as the secretary of the secretariat. Recruit 4 to 5 clerks to assist the Secretary of the Secretariat in handling official correspondence. Thank you, Marquis, for your promotion. Bai Nanpu had finally made a name for himself. Taking the opportunity to adjust the secretary's office, Ouyang Shuo announced the candidate to replace Zhao Duong. He was Hao Jiansheng, who had been promoted to deputy director. Ouyang Shuo originally planned to ask Sun Xiaoye to take over the position of the director of construction, but unfortunately, Sun Xiaoye's interest stopped at architectural design. She had no interest in holding an administrative position, so Ouyang Shuo could only give up. After adjusting the structure of his territory, Ouyang Shuo began to announce his plans for the development of his territory. Occupying 5 subsidiary territories at once is indeed a delightful thing. The next step was to figure out how to integrate these 5 territories into the Shanghai County system. To them, there had to be a primary and secondary order and a sequence. The most important thing is the construction of Tianfeng County. Tianfeng County is strategically important. We can't pay too much attention to it. Tianfeng County should be raised to a higher standard. It will be the future central city of the West. To support the construction of Tianfeng County, I have decided to send all the captives from the Evil Lion Ridge to Tianfeng County, except for those who have been selected to serve in the military. What was the point of sending it there? They had missed the time to reclaim the land and plant the second season of rice. The answer was to build a city wall. Tianfeng County's current city wall is too small. The city can only accommodate a limited number of people. Tianfeng County's outer city wall will be built according to the standard of a county city. It will be 10 kilometers long, 30 meters thick, and 10 meters high. Tianfeng County's main task for the next half a year was to complete the outer city wall and the official road. Ouyang Shuo appointed Zhao Duong as the magistrate of Tianfeng County because of this. Ouyang Shuo's idea was simple. Before the Tianhai Road was completed, Tianfeng County would be far away from his territory. There was no development to speak of. Ouyang Shuo decided to do the opposite. He would build the city wall first and then develop the territory. Besides Tianfeng County, the second priority is Gushan Town. Gushan Town is close to the mountain barbarian tribes in the central region. I have decided to move all the residents of Gushan Town to Yishui Town in the north. Then I will guide the mountain barbarian tribes down the mountain and turn Gushan Town into a mountain barbarian town. At this point, Ouyang Shuo turned his head to look at Tian Wenjing. Yangon, I entrust you with full authority to lead the construction of Gushan Town. Yes, Tian Wenjing nodded. Compared to the mountain barbarian settlements in Pool Water County, Gushan Town had a natural advantage. Its infrastructure was very complete. There was no need for repeated construction, and it could accommodate 10 to 20 mountain barbarian tribes at the same time. Gushan Town already had contact with the mountain barbarian tribes. Persuading them would be a lot easier. The only regret was that they had missed the second rice planting season. After the mountain barbarians descended the mountain, they would need Shanghai County to provide them with food for half a year. It was not a small investment. Ouyang Shuo still understood the logic of without risking the child to catch the wolf. After the residents of Gushan Town moved to Yishui Town, it would promote the development of Yishui Town. There was hope that Yishui Town could be promoted to Yishui County. Before they took over Duanren Town in the east, Yishui Town was the bridgehead of Shanghai County. They could not afford to lose it. Therefore, after the construction of the Tianhai Road, Ouyang Shuo urged Pool Water County to start the official road between Pool Water County and Yishui Town, including the official road to Gushan Town. Since the mountain barbarians down the mountain could not farm, it was undoubtedly the best choice to use them to build the official road. This way, it would not cause a waste of labor. As for the task of wiping out the bandits along the official road, it was naturally handed over to the Eastern City Barracks. Ouyang Shuo finished explaining the half-year plan for the 5 affiliated territories in a few sentences. He pointed out the direction for the work of the various departments in the headquarters. After the rapid expansion of the territory, another problem of Shanghai County was also exposed. It was an extreme shortage of talents. Compared to Shanghai Town, the 5 affiliated territories that they had occupied were far from the number of talents they had. The headquarters of Shanghai County had no choice but to transfer a large number of grassroots government personnel to the affiliated territories. As a result, there was a shortage of talents in the headquarters. If it was only a shortage of grassroots government personnel, Ouyang Shuo would not be so nervous. After all, there was the Southwest University China Hall. They could take up the post after a little training. The crux of the problem was that there was a lack of talents in the government system of Shanghai County. Other than Fan Zhongyan and Tian Wenjing, there were no other senior officials. This was what Ouyang Shuo was worried about. The officials in charge of the 5 affiliated territories were barely enough. They had more than enough defense, but not enough development. Ouyang Shuo could not be at ease. Talents had become the main obstacle to the rapid development of Shanghai County. The Southwest University China Hall was taking a long-term plan. The Shanghai County office, set up in the royal city of the system, was fighting a protracted war. It would not be able to achieve immediate results in a short period of time. Historical talents were also very rare. There were not many famous officials that could be recorded in the history of the Xia, Shang, and Zhou dynasties that had been unlocked. The only one that Ouyang Shuo was worried about was Yi Yin in the early Shang dynasty. Unfortunately, a month and a half had passed since the end of the Battle of Mai, and no one had found any traces of Yi Yin. Logically speaking, Shanghai County had an advantage in attracting famous officials of the Shang dynasty. Not only did it have Yi Lai, a general at the end of the Shang dynasty, but it also had the Shang cauldron given to it by the king of Shang, King Exine. Its relationship with the Shang dynasty could be said to be close. In addition, the architectural characteristics of the Mazu Temple, the recruitment hall, and the Yellow Emperor Shrine had greatly increased the reputation of Shanghai County. Therefore, Shanghai County had a great advantage in attracting historical figures. Even so far, they had gained nothing. To be continued. Chapter 237. P.S. 500 monthly tickets plus updates, and there's a guaranteed second chapter in the afternoon. Ouyang Shuo suppressed his desire for talents and continued to adjust the territory's plan. The territory's biggest financial problem is that we're over-reliant on the Wolf Mountain Mine and the Northern Twilight Salt Works. Due to the steady flow of funds from these 2 industries, the territory lacks the motivation to develop other industries. With the rapid expansion of the territory and army, the funds provided by these 2 industries are somewhat insufficient. Whether it's the Wolf Mountain Mine or the Northern Twilight Salt Works, their scale and profits have long reached their peak, and there's no more potential to be excavated. For the long term, we must boost other industries. Apart from the established core industry, the military industry, the territory specialties, the 3-flower wine and colorful silk are both high-profit products. Unfortunately, they haven't received enough attention and are still in a half-dead state. In fact, the territory specialties have much more potential than the Wolf Mountain Mine and the Northern Twilight Salt Works, since they have unlimited possibilities. Ouyang Shuo's words were self-criticism, but also a disguised criticism of the work of the Finance Bureau. Whether it was the 3-flower wine or the colorful silk, Ouyang Shuo had already handed them over to the Finance Bureau to manage. Unfortunately, the Finance Bureau's steps weren't big enough and were too conservative. Ouyang Shuo used his eyes to stopping you from asking for forgiveness and said, "I've decided to set up an industry division in the Finance Bureau to be responsible for the 3-flower wine, the colorful silk, and the white hair tea. At the same time, I'll take out 5,000 gold coins to support the expansion of these 3 industries." The specific plan includes the construction of a large winemaking workshop in the western suburbs, the 3-flower wine, with a monthly output of at least 500,000 units, and the expansion of the mulberry fields to at least 10,000 mu. The white hair tea is affected by the geographical location and has a lot of uncertainty. As the 3-flower wine gradually opened up the market in Dali, the price of each unit had risen to 2 silver coins, and the net profit was 150 copper coins. If the 3-flower wine could achieve the expected output, the monthly profit would reach 7,500 gold coins. If the scale was expanded in the future, the profit would become even higher. After the three-flower wine was completed, a large number of refugees would be employed. According to the Textile Association's president, Ing Chui, silkworms could be raised 4 times a year in the Lianzhou Basin. One mu of mulberry could produce 90 units of cocoons, and on average, 3 units of cocoons could be used to produce 1 unit of silk, and 5 units of silk could be used to weave 1 bolt of silk. In other words, 1 mu of mulberry could produce 6 bolts of colorful silk. In the market, a bolt of colorful silk was sold for 1 gold coin. After deducting 10% of the transaction tax and the cost of production, the net profit was 4 gold coins. If the mulberry field reached 10,000 mu, the quarterly profit would be 40,000 gold coins, and the annual profit would be 160,000 gold coins. According to Ouyang Shua's plan, once the Three Flowers Winery and Mulberry Gardens were in place, it would be equivalent to building another Wolf Mountain mine and Northern Twilight Saltworks, doubling their profits. The industrial plan proposed by Ouyang Shua was very inspiring. Even so, Ouyang Shua wasn't satisfied and set his sights on his core industry, the military industry. After removing the iron or shackles, the production of the 3 major military workshops had increased, but the speed of increase was still not enough to satisfy Ouyang Shua. If the weapons and equipment couldn't satisfy the demand, how could they carry out the arms trade? Ouyang Shua looked at the president of the Falling Moon Society, Sun Xiaoye, and said, "The 3 major military workshops in the Eastern District will be open to the blacksmiths, carpenters, and tailors of the Falling Moon Society." The prerequisite was that the members of the 3 workshops had to sign a confidentiality agreement. "I hope the guild will take the lead in organizing this work." Sun Xiaoye was attending the meeting as a consultant, so it wasn't appropriate for her to say much. She only nodded to indicate that there was no problem. After 3 months of hard work, the Falling Moon Society had successfully upgraded the guild token to the silver rank. The maximum number of members was increased to 10,000, and at the same time, a guild special feature was added. After Ouyang Shua received the news, he immediately contacted his aunt and sent a large number of life profession players recruited by Snow Rose to Shanghai County. In a short period of time, the number of members of the Falling Moon Society had exceeded 2,000, and it was still growing. The proportion of the players in the population of Shanghai County had started to increase rapidly. In order to balance the development of the territory, Ouyang Shua had no choice but to divert some of the life profession players to Pool and Friendship County. As for Beihai County, it was temporarily not open to the players. This was because the life profession players usually brought along their families and settled down in Shanghai County. There were pros and cons to this. The players were all youngsters, and their family members could be roughly divided into 3 groups: elders, peers, and juniors. The elders were their parents and even their grandfathers. They were all experienced elders. This group of people would either choose to fish, cook, or enjoy their lives wholeheartedly. Otherwise, they would have been hired by Southwest University to serve as a teacher at the grassroots level and make use of their talents. They belonged to the most stable group. The peers were the brothers and sisters of the players, and they were all youngsters. Some of these people were also life profession players, but they were not very talented. Most of them were adventurous players. They belonged to the most unstable group. Because of this, Ouyang Shua ordered that the disciplinary office would be open to the bailiffs, and the government clinic would be open to the healers. Song Jia's Eastern Fence Sword faction would recruit chivalrous players. The Taoist players also had a place to go, which was the Qingyang Temple in the western suburbs. As for the strategists and generals, they were the most miserable group. Because the Shanghai County military had temporarily not opened to the players, they had no way to join. The last group were the juniors, which were the children. These kids, like Binger, had to go to the virtual classroom every day. When they were not going to school, they would run around and play in the territory. It brought a touch of childishness to the dull territory. As Shanghai County became more and more open, the players felt more and more like Shanghai County. They began to truly see themselves as a part of Shanghai County, and not as an outsider. After Ouyang Shuo proposed a clear plan for the territory's army, subsidiary territory, structure, and industry, he finally said, "I hope that all of you will work together to implement the plan." Yes, the ministers saluted. At this point, Ouyang Shuo's one-man show officially came to an end. Just as Ouyang Shuo was planning a grand blueprint for the territory far away in Duanren Town by East Law Lake, a big event that could affect the future of Lianzhou Basin happened. Duanren Town, Lord's Mansion. What did you say? Say it again. Domineering Blade couldn't believe it. Sir, it's absolutely true. The mountain barbarian tribe that cooperated with us found a gold mine in the forest. The mountain barbarians don't know gold mining and refining technology, so they want to cooperate with us. Good. Domineering Blade slammed the table and stood up. He paced back and forth in the meeting hall, trying hard to calm down. He looked up at the sky and sighed. God has not forsaken me. In the last territory war, Duanren Town suffered a great defeat. The army was almost wiped out, and the territory's liquid funds were also used up because of the 3 teleportation fees. In order to raise funds and rebuild an army, Domineering Blade almost sold off all the territory's resources. During that period, Domineering Blade was on tenterhooks all day, afraid that the army of Shanghai County would attack him when he woke up. Fortunately, Shanghai County's attention was diverted by Tianfeng County, and Ouyang Shuo couldn't spare any attention to the east, so Duanren Town escaped the disaster. When it rains, it pours. At this time, the price of grain suddenly rose, and Duanren Town immediately fell into a food crisis. Domineering Blade almost fell into despair when he saw that he wouldn't be able to feed them. There was a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. The gold mine was undoubtedly the best gift God had given to Domineering Blade, allowing him to come back from the dead. I won't let you off. Domineering Blade swore in his heart. In the afternoon, Ouyang Shuo walked out of the Marquis's mansion and arrived at the sacrificial area on the east side of the mansion. The sacrificial area was very spacious. To the north was the Heaven Sacrificial Plaza that covered an area of 100 hectares. It took up 2/3 of the area. The Heaven Sacrificial Plaza was paved with bluestone, and there were exquisite railings made of marble. There was a tall platform in the center of the plaza, and a Shan cauldron was placed on top of it. Other than that, there were no decorations on the Heaven Sacrificial Plaza. There were 3 sacrificial buildings behind the Heaven Sacrificial Plaza. The one in the middle was the Yellow Emperor Temple. There were 2 new temples on both sides of the Yellow Emperor Temple. They were the basic buildings of a Tier 3 county, the Confucian Temple and the Martial Temple. Ouyang Shuo walked into the Confucian Temple. The temple had 5 courtyards with red walls and yellow tiles, including the Depei Tiandao Guan Archway, 1 Rin Palace Wall, Ling Xing Gate, Pan Shi, Deshang Gate, Deshang Hall, Minglin Hall, Zun Scripture Pavilion, and other buildings. The Confucian Temple worshipped the sages of the liberal arts. Confucius was the first sage, and his first disciple Yin Yuan was the second sage. There were 10 philosophers, 72 sages, and 22 sages. Apart from the 22 sages, the rest were all disciples of Confucius. The 10 philosophers had statues, while the 72 sages only had portraits. They were able to receive incense offerings. In the game, Gaia had made some changes to the Confucian Temple. Apart from keeping Confucius as the first sage, the 10 philosophers and the 72 sages have been replaced with sages, making the Confucian Temple more worthy of its name. Shanghai County's Fan Zhongyan was listed as one of the 72 sages. The only benefit of being listed as a sage in the Confucian Temple was that if they died in the game, they could be revived in the Confucian Temple, granting them the same immortality as the players. Ouyang Shuo took out an incense essence pill and heard the system notification. System notification. Player Wui has an incense essence pill. Would you like to use it? Use it. With a whoosh, the incense essence pills turned into rays of white light and entered the statue of the virtuous minister. System notification. The statue of the sage has been nourished by the incense essence pill. The Confucian Temple has gained a new building property, statecraft, increases the rate of the officials breaking through bottlenecks by 30%. As expected of the Confucian Temple, the new building property was clearly made for the officials. To be continued. Chapter 238. Ouyang Shuo left the Confucian Temple and went to the Martial Temple on the other side. The layout of the Martial Temple was similar to that of the Confucian Temple. The martial arts temple worshipped the sages and masters of martial arts. Jiang Taigong was the first sage, Zhang Liang was the second sage, and behind him were the 10 philosophers and the 72 famous generals. Shi Wansui of Shanhai County was one of the 72 famous generals. Because of the long history of Wu Lai, there was no way to verify it. It was a pity that he had brushed past the 72 famous generals. Ouyang Shuo took out the last incense essence pill, and a system notification rang in his ears. System notification. Players say you have no clothes is in possession of incense essence pill. Do you want to use it? Use. With a whoosh, the incense essence pills turned into streaks of white light and flew into the statue. System notification. The famous general statue has been nourished by incense essence pill. The Guanlin Temple has gained a unique property. Martial arts. Increase the rate of the generals in the territory breaking through their bottlenecks by 30%. The characteristics of the buildings derive from Guanlin Temple's rendered Sun Tangjiao, Zhao Sihu, and a large group of generals who were stuck at the beginner level speechless. It was practically a great blessing. Ouyang Shuo looked forward to them breaking through their bottlenecks one by one. Ouyang Shuo did not expect that the 5 inconspicuous incense essence pills that the king of Shang had given him would have such a magical effect. He was really emotional. After dinner, Ouyang Shuo called all the women in the backyard together, including the maidservants Si Qin and Si Qi of the Qingying courtyard. He first looked at Ing Yu and said, after the finance department has established the industry department, the pawn shop and the inn managed by the finance department will be purchased by the home manor and transferred to the home manor's assets. The pawn shop and then were all businesses that were losing money. Ouyang Shuo taking the initiative to take over them also showed the home manor's magnanimity. Although Ing Yu found it a little strange, it didn't matter, so she nodded her head in agreement. In the morning's military meeting, Ouyang Shuo had vaguely criticized her. Ing Yu still felt a little apologetic in her heart. She was determined to properly reorganize the territory's industry. It was naturally good to be able to get rid of the 2 burdens of the inn and shop. Ouyang Shuo looked at the women and continued. As the estate of the House of the Marquis increases, the inner treasury becomes more and more full, and the number of servants also increases. The affairs of the House of the Marquis become more and more burdensome. Therefore, they had to establish rules to regulate the affairs of the House of Marquis. This Marquis has decided to establish an internal affairs department to be responsible for managing the internal affairs of the Marquis Manor. Ouyang Shuo's suggestion naturally received unanimous approval. As the structure of Shanhai County became more and more mature, the internal structure of the Marquis Manor, on the other hand, did not have a set of rules. And you had long raised this matter with Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo looked at Song Jia and said with a smile, the Internal Affairs Division has its own system. It manages the affairs of the Marquis Manor and has nothing to do with the officials of the outer court. Jia, you will take over the position of the Chief Steward of the Internal Affairs Division. What do you think? Song Jia blushed. She understood the meaning behind Ouyang Shuo's words. Letting her take charge of the Internal Affairs Division was equivalent to indirectly acknowledging Song Jia's status as the Marquis Mansion's mistress. Originally, these things were only faintly discernible. Now that Ouyang Shuo had pointed it out, how could she not be embarrassed? All right, Song Jia was a magnanimous person after all. Ouyang Shuo nodded. This was also one of the things he admired about Song Jia. She didn't act like a little girl. Once she recognized Ouyang Shuo as her husband, she wasn't afraid of others gossiping about her. In the Internal Affairs Division, other than the Chief Steward, there is also a manager and 2 assistant managers. Zisu will be in charge, while Si Qin and Si Qi will be in charge. Thank you, Marquis. Zissou and the other two knelt down to express their gratitude. The establishment of the Eastern Fence Sword faction was imminent. Song Jia didn't have too much energy to manage the affairs of the Marquis' mansion. Therefore, the manager of the Internal Affairs Division was the actual manager. Zissou was naturally grateful to be entrusted with such a heavy responsibility. Ban Xia, who was standing behind Song Jia, didn't know what to feel when she saw her sisters being valued by the Marquis. If she didn't choose to practice martial arts, she would also have a place in the Internal Affairs Division. Marquis, in a week, it will be the Mid-Autumn Festival. What request can Marquis have? Taking this opportunity, Zissou, who had just taken over, asked. Ouyang Shuo was startled. He didn't expect that it would be the Mid-Autumn Festival already. As a traditional festival of China, the Mid-Autumn Festival was very important. Every festive season, people would miss their loved ones even more. I don't have any request. Just prepare according to the usual procedures. Ouyang Shuo suddenly felt a little dispirited. Yes. Zissou nodded in response. Everyone is dismissed. Everyone dispersed. Ouyang Shuo returned to his room. Ouyang Shuo sat cross-legged on the bed. He took out the cooling bead and placed it on his palm. He closed his eyes and calmed his mind, starting to cultivate. The inner force in his meridians began to slowly circulate according to the circulation route of the yellow Thearka's internal cannon. At this moment, the cooling bead in his palm emitted a trace of cooling qi that passed through his palm and into his meridians. Stimulated by the cooling qi, the golden inner force circulated at an obvious speed. Not only that, the restless demonic god bloodline in Ouyang Shuo's body also calmed down under the comfort of the cooling qi. It no longer disturbed Ouyang Shuo's cultivation. It had been a whole 2 months since he cultivated the yellow Thearka's internal cannon to the 3rd level. The upper limit of the 3rd level was 5,000 points, which was 5 times higher than the 2nd level. During this period of time, Ouyang Shuo diligently studied the Tao scripture and became more and more proficient in cultivation. The parts of the yellow Thearka's internal cannon that he didn't understand before gradually became clear. His understanding of the yellow Thearka's internal cannon became deeper. When he first started cultivating the yellow Thearka's internal cannon, Ouyang Shuo completely relied on the cultivation knowledge that Gaia had forced into his mind. He copied it according to what Gaia had taught him. As he learned more about Taoism, Ouyang Shuo tried to re-examine the yellow Thearka's internal cannon and gradually gained his own understanding. Naturally, his cultivation was different. In Ouyang Shuo's dantian, traces of golden inner force were tangled together in a disorderly manner. They swam around like a ball of hemp silk, like smoke or mist, looking very illusory. Now, Ouyang Shuo could circulate 7 times a day. Every circulation could increase his inner force by 8 points. After obtaining the cooling bead, his cultivation speed became even faster. He could cultivate 9 circulations. Therefore, Ouyang Shuo could increase his inner force by 72 points a day. According to this cultivation speed, he could cultivate the yellow Thearka's internal cannon to the 4th level next month. From the looks of it, perseverance was important on the path of cultivation. Items that could assist in cultivation were equally important. A small cooling bead saved Ouyang Shuo a lot of hard work. It was a pity that such a rare treasure could only be found by chance. Early in the morning, Ouyang Shuo got up to cultivate. In order not to disturb Bing'er's sleep, Ouyang Shuo had already moved the cultivation area from the courtyard to an empty space in the back garden. In order to complement the 8 extremities fist training, he even ordered people to set up some wooden dummies in the empty space. Ever since Song Jia arrived, there were only 2 people training in the back garden. Although Song Jia was a delicate misty in reality, she had a fierce spirit in her bones. Compared to Ouyang Shuo, the manly Ouyang Shuo, his enthusiasm for cultivation was not inferior at all. In the early morning, the back garden was filled with birdsong and fragrant flowers. Stepping on the grass, one could smell the fragrance of green grass. One had to say that Gaia was really amazing. The game environment was exactly the same as reality. The two of them greeted each other tacitly, walked to the side, and began their own cultivation. As he cultivated the yellow Thearka's internal cannon, his inner force began to drive his outer force. Ouyang Shua's physical fitness was getting better day by day. Whether it was boxing or spear practice, he was getting more and more proficient. Ouyang Shua's advantage of having a high root bone and high comprehension was gradually showing its power during cultivation. Whether it was the Eight Extremities Fist or the Yang family spear, they were all improving at lightning speed. His Eight Extremities Fist had already reached the 4th level, familiar, while his Yang family spear had already reached the 3rd level, advanced. Ouyang Shua's current strength was comparable to Lin Yi's. His only regret was that he still hadn't found a suitable spear. Holding the refined iron spear in his hand, he couldn't use it to its full potential. Especially the spear shaft, which was made of ordinary wood without any complicated processing. It couldn't withstand Ouyang Shua's inner force at all. If Ouyang Shua channeled his inner force into the refined iron spear, there would be an obvious creak sound coming from the inside of the spear shaft. This proved that the inner force had damaged the wood texture and fibers inside the spear shaft. Ouyang Shua had no choice but to give up on channeling his inner force. He couldn't just use a spear every time he practiced. No matter how big Shanghai County was, it couldn't withstand this kind of consumption. After finishing his cultivation, Ouyang Shua was covered in sweat. His clothes were soaked in sweat. He picked up the towel on the wooden rack and wiped the sweat off his face. On the other side of the grass, Song Jia was still practicing her sword. She was very proficient with the new swordplay. A cool breeze blew, and a fallen leaf on the grass was blown up by the wind. It swayed and coincidentally collided with the sword in Song Jia's hand. The refined iron sword sliced through the air without any hindrance. It wasn't affected at all. Looking at the leaf again, it had been split into two. The cut was as smooth as a mirror. It was as if it was born with 2 leaves. Looking closely, there was a trace of white frost on the cut. It was the result of the 9 Yin scripture's inner force activating. The 9 Yin scripture could be practiced by both men and women. Different genders would have different attributes of the inner force. Song Jia's 9 Yin scripture had a trace of ice attribute. When practiced to the extreme, it could penetrate through the heart and bones. Compared to the refined iron spear, the refined iron sword in Song Jia's hand could withstand much more inner force. That was why Song Jia could use it so recklessly. Clap, clap, clap. Ouyang Shua couldn't help but applaud. Good sword play. Song Jia sheathed her sword and smiled at Ouyang Shua. What do you think? My swordplay is good, right? Master Song's swordplay is superb. I'm very impressed. Ouyang Shua praised. You're so talkative. Song Jia was like a proud peacock. She giggled and drew a beautiful flower with her sword. She sheathed her sword and nodded at Ouyang Shua. Then, she elegantly turned around and left. She really had the demeanor of a heroine. Ouyang Shua laughed and shook his head. He picked up his spear and returned to the backyard. Zisu had already ordered people to prepare cold water for Ouyang Shua to wash. To be continued. Chapter 239. On the morning of the 27th day of the 9th lunar month, Ouyang Shua left the city with 4 guards. His destination was the military factory built in a cave on the western outskirts of the city. The military factory was built by the Combat Readiness Division of the Military Administration. It had been 3 months since the construction started. It was mainly responsible for the production of military food pellets, tents, and ladders. Passing through the western city gate, one could see the craftsmen building the official road not far from the city gate. The starting point of the Sky Sea Road was not the current western city gate, but the western city gate of the 3rd city wall. Although the official road was not paved with bluestone like the roads in the city, it was not easy to build. In the wilderness, weeds were overgrown. The craftsmen had to first remove the weeds and then dig the soil at the roots to prevent the weeds from growing again next year. The official road was made of ternary soil. The main materials were lime, soil, and sand. Only when the ternary soil was compacted would the weeds not grow, and it would not become muddy on rainy days. The chief engineer of the Sky Sea Road designed a road roller that was pulled by horses. He asked the blacksmith to build a cylindrical iron roller and used 8 horses to pull it, which saved a lot of manpower. Because one of the important functions of the official road was to mobilize troops and transport materials, the official road was not designed to be narrow. It was a full 20 meters wide, and there's also a good drainage system. Trees had to be transplanted on both sides of the official road. In addition, along the Sky Sea Road, there were some tributaries of the Friendship River and some hillsides, which needed to be bridged by water and cleared by mountains. The difficulty was not comparable to the construction inside the city wall. Finally, there was the most important courier system, which included courier roads and courier stations. The courier stations were for officials to spend the night. The distance between them was about a day's journey, usually about 60 kilometers. Between the courier stations, there were also simple shops for pedestrians to rest and eat. Usually, there was one shop every 10 kilometers. After leaving the city, Ouyang Shaw and the others turned left and rode for less than 10 kilometers to reach the cave where the military factory was located. At the entrance of the cave, there was a big iron gate that could only be opened in an emergency. Next to the iron gate, there was a small door that could only allow one person to pass through, which was used as a passage. In front of the cave, there was a wooden warning sign with the words Military Restricted Area, and a small team of soldiers stood on both sides, responsible for guarding. Ouyang Shou nodded in satisfaction when he saw that the military factory was heavily guarded. After getting off the horse, Ouyang Shua handed the horse over to his guards and walked towards the gate alone. When the guards saw Ouyang Shua, he immediately saluted Marquis. He was about to run over to open the gate. Ouyang Shua waved his hand. There's no need to trouble yourself. This Marquis can enter from the side door. The soldier looked troubled. Marquis, there's no need to say anything else. I came here on a whim, so I can't mobilize everyone. Yes. The soldier did not dare to argue anymore and respectfully opened the small door. Ouyang Shua left 2 of his personal guards outside and took the other 2 personal guards with him as he strode into the cave. The inside of the cave was not as dark as he had imagined. The walls on both sides, including the ceiling, were inlaid with small white stones that emitted a gentle white light, as bright as day. Upon closer inspection, it turned out that it was not artificially inlaid, but a natural one. Ouyang Shua knew that those small stones should be a type of fluorite, a natural light source. Looking up, the cave was more than 10 meters high and more than 150 meters wide. There was no end in sight. Such a huge cave did not make one feel depressed at all. Ouyang Shua's arrival alarmed the military factory supervisor. He was a middle-aged man who looked extremely calm. When he received the news, he rushed over. Marquis has come in person. This humble one has failed to welcome you. Ouyang Shua waved his hand. This Marquis came uninvited. How about it? Show me around. Yes. The supervisor nodded and led the way. The military factory is divided into 3 areas. They are responsible for the manufacture of military food pellets, tents, and ladders. The supervisor pointed to an area in front and said, "The outermost area is the area where ladders are made." Ouyang Shua looked in the direction he was pointing and saw a 10-meter wide road in the middle of the cave. Both sides were surrounded by wooden walls. Through the 4-meter-high walls, one could see ladders erected high up. How is the ladder construction efficiency? Ouyang Shua asked. Reporting to Marquis, according to the current production speed, 1 ladder can be made every day. Ouyang Shua nodded. After passing through the ladder area was the tents area. It could produce 20 tents every day. At the end was the military food pellet area. The materials used to make military food pellets were grains and some other non-staple foods and seasonings. It was extremely troublesome to make. On average, 1 military food pellet would consume 3 to 4 units of grains. The production efficiency of military food pellets was quite high. It could produce more than 1,000 pellets every day. Behind the military food pellet area was a river, and the surrounding area was the workers' living area. After the tour, Ouyang Shuo left the cave under the respectful sending off of everyone. After returning, Ouyang Shuo contacted Cui Shorin of the Cui Merchant Group through the super trading platform. Ouyang Shuo's title of Marquis of Lian Province was conferred by the Dali Imperial Court. It obtained official recognition and was effective to all natives. Therefore, the Cui Merchant Group's attitude towards Ouyang Shuo had undergone a huge change. After all, the Cui clan was only a merchant family. Their social status wasn't high. They naturally had to maintain sufficient respect towards this Marquis, Ouyang Shuo. Of course, business was business, so they had to do what they had to do. Marquis Cui Shorin took the lead to greet Ouyang Shuo. With Ouyang Shuo's guidance, the Cui Merchant Group had stocked up a batch of grains. Just based on this, Cui Shorin didn't dare put on any airs. Ouyang Shuo nodded and said, "Brother Shorin, this Marquis has a favor to ask of your merchant group." "Marquis, please speak." Merchants were most afraid of owing favors. The Cui Merchant Group owed Ouyang Shuo a huge favor and was worried about how to repay it. Now that Ouyang Shuo had taken the initiative to ask for a favor, Cui Shorin naturally couldn't ask for more. "Your merchant group has quite a lot of connections in Dali. Can you recruit a group of talents for Shanghai County?" Ouyang Shuo placed the idea of recruiting talents on the Cui Merchant Group. Compared to the Snow Rose Mercenary Group that only had influence among the players, the Cui Merchant Group's influence among the natives was even greater. Cui Shorin was slightly surprised. "Marquis, can you tell me in detail?" "This Marquis thirsts for talent, but unfortunately, I don't have the connections. I presume there are some unsuccessful people in Dali City. They have a body full of talent, but have no place to utilize it. They're either down-and-out scholars, officials that have been pushed aside, generals that are dissatisfied, or even some craftsmen and artists. All of these people are targets for Shanghai County to recruit." Ouyang Shuo explained his idea. Although Shanghai County is located in a remote area, it can provide a platform for them to display their ambitions. Moreover, the salary provided by Shanghai County is absolutely not lower than royal cities. Ouyang Shuo's confidence not only came from his marquis title of Lianzhou, but also from the influence of his reputation as a kingdom scholar among the natives. Especially in Dali, it was even more so. Cui Shorin suddenly understood Ouyang Shuo's intentions. If it was only based on the reputation of either Marquis Lianzhou or the Cui Merchant Group, then this matter might be more difficult to handle. But if the two of them were combined, then it could produce a magic that was greater than two. It was extremely persuasive and was sufficient to move many people. Dali had such a huge talent pool, so even a little bit of it would be sufficient for Shanghai County to consume for a long time. Ouyang Shuo's poaching was truly brilliant. Since it's the Marquis's order, the Cui family is naturally duty-bound. Cui Shorin directly agreed. Ouyang Shuo nodded. For the sake of reassuring people and to show my sincerity, this Marquis is willing to provide a settlement allowance for every talent that is willing to settle down in Shanghai County. The specific amount will be determined by your merchant group. What do you think? According to Ouyang Shuo's idea, since it was a person that was unsatisfactory, then they would presumably live in poverty. The Marquis is thoughtful. Cui Shorin nodded in agreement. Please rest assured, Marquis. The Cui family will definitely treat this matter as a major matter and not let Marquis down. In that case, thank you. Ouyang Shuo expressed his gratitude. You flatter me. Cui Shorin didn't go back on his word. After the conversation with Ouyang Shuo ended, he immediately requested to see the patriarch. After listening to Cui Shorin's report, the patriarch of the Cui family was silent for a long time before he said, Marquis Lianzhou is far-sighted, and his arrangements are exquisite and original. Moreover, he has the heart to seek talents. Such breadth of mind and bearing already possess the sign of a soaring dragon. This is a great opportunity for my Cui family, and we must not miss it. Shorin. Yes. I allow you to utilize the strength of the Chui family and go all out to recruit talents for Marquis Lianzhou. Besides that, if the disciples of my Chui family are interested in an official career, then you can recommend them to the territory of Marquis Lianzhou. The Chui clan merchant group can consider setting up a branch in the territory of Marquis Lianzhou at a suitable time. Chui Shoren was shocked in his heart. He never imagined that the patriarch would actually attach so much importance to this matter, and it far exceeded his expectations. Chui Shoren firmly believed the judgment of the patriarch, and he said loudly, "Yes." After Chui Shoren left, the patriarch sat by himself in the central hall and muttered to himself, "The Chui family's revival is just around the corner. In the end, I didn't disappoint my ancestors and didn't allow the Chui family to decline in my hands." Once the Chui clan merchant group's strength was activated, its ability was extremely terrifying. In the streets and alleys of Dali, the servants of the Chui residence came out in full force, and they brought along the Chui residence's gilded invitation cards and specially prepared gifts as they paid a visit to the impoverished scholars and officials or generals that Ouyang Shua had pointed out. Some of these people were overwhelmed by the unexpected favor. Some were composed and at ease, some refused at the door, and so on and so forth. All in all, the joint efforts of Marquis Lianzhou and the Chui clan merchant group were extremely effective. Most of them indicated that they would seriously consider it for a while before giving the Chui clan an accurate answer. As for craftsmen, there was no need for the Chui clan to make a big fuss and recruit them. The main targets of recruitment were the three types of skilled craftsmen, carpenters, and tailors that Ouyang Shua had specially instructed. To be continued. Chapter 240. Gaia's first year, October 1st, Eastern Fence Sword Factions Base. Lonely Peak, Cloud Platform. The originally empty cloud platform was now a cluster of courtyards, pavilions, terraces, and towers. It was a spectacular sight. On the west side of the cloud platform, there was a herb garden that covered an area of 1,000 acres. It was the herb garden, emitting bursts of unique fragrance of herbs. A stream divided the cloud platform into two, and an arch bridge was built over the stream. Under the rainbow, it exuded a bit of Taoist charm and extraordinary momentum. In the distance, under the waterfall, beside the pool, under the ancient pagoda tree, a simple wooden hut rose from the ground and blended with the surrounding pool and pagoda trees. That was the sect leader's secret chamber. The sect leader's secret chamber was the safest place to enter unless invited. In front of the cloud platform, in the center of the square paved with blue stone, 800 registered disciples, dressed in the uniform of the sect, lined up neatly. Song Jia, dressed in a sky-blue Taoist robe, stood in front of the disciples. Behind her stood Ban Xia and Shui Tianqi, two personal disciples, one holding a sword and the other holding a book. The sword was the green-edged sword given by Ouyang Shua, and the book was a volume of Tao scripture that Song Jia had read. Song Jia looked solemn. She chose Create Sect on the operation panel, and the system prompt sounded in her ears. System prompt. Congratulations to player Beautiful Dream for applying to create a sect. Automatically retrieving the conditions. Condition 1. The sect's capital must not be less than 200 gold coins. Meet the requirements. Condition 2. The founder must have at least 500 registered disciples. Meet the requirements. Condition 3. The sect's core cultivation method must be at least an emperor-level comprehensive cultivation method. Nine Sutra meets the requirements. Condition 4. Have an independent sect base. Meet the requirements. System prompt. Congratulations to player Beautiful Dream for meeting all the conditions of Create Sect. You are allowed to create a sect. Please name your sect. Eastern Fence Sword Faction. Song Jia did not hesitate. In the sect leader's secret chamber, a stone tablet slowly rose from the ground. It was the automatically generated stone tablet of the sect. If the stone tablet was broken and more than 80 disciples died, it meant that the sect was destroyed. System notice. Congratulations to player Beautiful Dream for successfully creating the martial arts sect Eastern Fence Sword Faction. Special reward, 5,000 reputation points. Because the Eastern Fence Sword sect is located in Shanghai County, Shanghai County has the title of the land of martial arts. As the system announcement rang out, Song Jia's name immediately spread throughout the world. She became an influential figure among the players of the China server. She no longer had to live under Ouyang Shua's halo, and her future was bright. Songwen immediately congratulated her on the national channel. Good job, little sister. Ouyang Shua was not to be outdone. Congratulations, sect leader Song. The outside world was once again in an uproar. With Ouyang Shua's current influence, there was no doubt that his words immediately caused the players to pay more attention to the Eastern Fence Sword faction and Song Jia. The attentive players also noticed that since beautiful Qi Rumeng was Song Wen's younger sister, why was the Eastern Fence Sword faction established in Shanghai County instead of Song Wen's Heavenly Frost Town? Gossip, shocking gossip. The national channel immediately boiled over with countless speculations. Not said to have no clothes vs. a dream like a dream. The relationship is revealed. Are you friends, lovers, or they must be a couple? Don't tell me there's still a pure friendship. The commenter above is insightful. Lovers +1. No, Brother Wooey is mine. Well, alas, another ignorant girl's fantasy is shattered. Come to me. The Brother Wooey fan group is not convinced. Beautiful Qi Rumeng, we want to duel with you. Little sister, don't forget that beautiful Qi Rumeng is the head of the sect. She has a lot of brothers. Woo. The commenter above has fainted from crying in the toilet. Brothers nearby, go quickly. Is the Eastern Fence Sword faction recruiting? At this time, Song Jia had already dismissed the disciples. Holding the azure sharp sword, she quickly walked to Ouyang Shua's side and said with a murderous look, "Blockhead, tell me the truth. What the hell is the Brother Wooey fan group?" Looking at the murderous beauty, Ouyang Shua was a little happy in his heart. As a man, knowing that he was worshipped by so many little girls always made him feel good. On the surface, Ouyang Shua still looked serious and solemn. Jia, I swear to God, I really don't know. Humph. Her man being so powerful should be something to be happy about. But why did Song Jia feel so uncomfortable? It was not easy for her to become famous, but half of the limelight was stolen by this blockhead. At this time, the Alliance channel was also very lively. Whether it was Sun Xiao or Song Jia, they had already been pulled to the Alliance channel by Ouyang Shua. Sister-in-law is mighty. Siege Lion started to show off again. Ever since he saw Ouyang Shua and Song Jia's intimate actions in the Battle of Mai, he had been teasing Ouyang Shua. The others also sent their congratulations, and Song Jia smiled and accepted them. After establishing the Eastern Fence Sword faction, Song Jia finally had the confidence to get along with Bai Hua, Feng Xiuhuang, and the others as equals. She no longer felt inferior. Ouyang Shua took the opportunity to check the attributes of the title Land of Martial Arts. Land of Martial Arts increased the physical fitness of the territory's residents by 20. Ouyang Shua nodded. It was just as he expected. Although it was also a land of martial arts, Ouyang Shua estimated that the attributes of the title of Swordsman County should be a bit stronger. After all, it was the first territory to establish a sect. After establishing the sect, the affairs of the sect were very complicated. Before the sect's affairs were completely sorted out, Song Jia would spend most of her time in the sect. She would be separated from Ouyang Shua more often than not, which made Ouyang Shua feel somewhat melancholy. After the congratulations, Ouyang Shua did not stay any longer and immediately went down the mountain. After going down the mountain, he did not choose to return to the headquarters. At the foot of the mountain, a squadron of Imperial Guards was waiting for him. Ouyang Shua planned to make a trip to Yishui Town and Gushin Town. It had been almost a month since they had occupied Yishui Town and Gushin Town. As the Lord, Ouyang Shua had not inspected them even once, which was a bit of a dereliction of duty. Yishui Town was built on the bank of Qiushui River. After the residents of Gushin Town moved over, adding on the residents of the subsidiary territories, the population of Ishui Town had already exceeded the 10,000 mark. After Ouyang Shua arrived at Ishui Town, he officially changed the name of Ishui Town to Ishui County. As for the candidate for the county magistrate, Ouyang Shua was not in a hurry to appoint one. For the time being, the previous county magistrate was still in charge of the day-to-day affairs of Ishui County. With the merger of Ishui Town and Gushin Town, the government personnel had also been merged together. At long last, the government structure had gradually been enriched, and there was no lack of talent. The current governor of Ishui Town was just an ordinary official from the administrative office. How could Ouyang Shua feel at ease letting him manage the affairs of the county? If it was in the past, Ouyang Shua might have pulled the seedlings to hasten their growth. But now, the Chui Clan Chamber of Commerce had sent news that the recruitment of talents was going smoothly, and it wouldn't be long before a large number of talents would be sent to Shanghai County. According to Ouyang Shua's plan, he would naturally select an official from the group of talents recruited by Dali to serve as the county magistrate of Ishui County. That included Evernight Town and Guangshui Town in the west. As the bridgehead on the eastern side of the territory, Ishui County was responsible for monitoring the players' territories in the east. Naturally, the defense of the territory could not be ignored. After the merger of the two towns, Ishui County established the City Defense Battalion in accordance with the unified territorial standards. In addition to inspecting, Ouyang Shua also came to check on the training of the City Defense Battalion. He was very dissatisfied with the results. The officers and soldiers of the City Defense Battalion were all the useless soldiers and crab generals left over from the original two territories. Even the soldiers from the subsidiary territories were put together to barely form an organized battalion. As the saying goes, if the soldiers are strong, the generals are strong in a nest. In order to increase the battle strength of the City Defense Battalion, Ouyang Shua selected 10 elite soldiers from the Imperial Guard platoon he brought with him and added them to the City Defense Battalion of Ishui County to serve as platoon leaders and battalion commanders. As for the former platoon leaders and battalion commanders, they were both demoted to squad leaders by Ouyang Shua. Ouyang Shua gave the City Defense Battalion target, requiring them to actively suppress bandits and increase their battle strength. In addition to the City Defense Battalion, the defensive facilities could not be ignored. Compared to Tianfeng County, the city wall of Ishui County was even worse. After Ouyang Shua looked at it, he immediately decided to start the construction of the city wall of Ishui County. According to Ouyang Shua's long-term plan, the future Ishui County would be designated as a second-tier city. Therefore, the city wall would be built according to the standards of a county town, with a length of 5 kilometers. After the drastic transformation of Ishui County, Ouyang Shua stayed the night in Ishui County. The next morning, under the escort of the officials of Ishui County, Ouyang Shua brought the Imperial Guards and rushed to the Gushin Town, which was further away. There was a group of tribal leaders waiting for him to meet them. After eliminating the bandits from the Evil Lion Ridge, the prestige of Shanghai County among the mountain barbarian tribes rose to an unprecedented height. Especially the batch of supplies left behind by Ouyang Shua, it solved their urgent need. It was reported that after the mountain barbarians transported the supplies away, they burned down the mountain village. It could be seen that the hatred the mountain barbarians had for the bandits was unforgettable. The mountain barbarians were a race that clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. Those who bullied them would be hated by the mountain barbarians until they died. Those who helped them would always be remembered by the mountain barbarians. In addition to the description of the tribal soldiers who joined the army in advance and the demonstration effect of the mountain barbarian settlement in Pool Water County, the head of the Internal Affairs Division, Tian Wenjing, did not need much effort to successfully persuade 1 large tribe, 3 medium tribes, and 7 small tribes to leave the mountain. He almost wiped out all the mountain barbarian tribes in the area. These 11 mountain barbarian tribes were all settled in the Gushin town, forming a mountain barbarian autonomous town. According to Ouyang Shua's promise, other than the Bank of the Four Seas branch, all the officials in the Gushan town would be taken up by the mountain barbarians. The only thing that Shanghai County interfered with was the establishment of the Gushan Town City Defense Battalion. To be continued. Chapter 241. P.S. This chapter is for rewards and updates. The last 2 chapters will not change. When Ouyang Shua and his group arrived at Gushan Town, it was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Led by the leader of the large-scale Thunder and Lightning tribe, Lei Fan, 11 tribe leaders respectfully welcomed Ouyang Shua. Lei Fan was also the candidate for the chief of the Gushan mountain town recommended by the allied tribes. Ouyang Shua had discovered that Lei Fan was extraordinary in just a short time. It was reported that Lei Fan had taken over as the leader of the Thunder and Lightning tribe at the age of 24. It had been 10 years since then, and he had a high prestige in the tribe. Not only that, but the leaders of the other tribes also respected Lei Fan. Compared to Shi Xiong, the leader of the Mystic Bird tribe, who was conservative, Lei Fan was much more open-minded and had a more unique vision. This time, it was Lei Fan who pushed for the Thunder and Lightning tribe to descend the mountain. Lei Fan had long realized that if the mountain barbarians wanted to live a better life, the best choice was to integrate with the Han people. When Tian Wenjing visited the Thunder and Lightning tribe, the two of them hit it off immediately. After a brief meeting, Ouyang Shua changed the name of Gushan Town to Gushan County and officially appointed Lei Fan as the county magistrate of Gushan County, with the authority to appoint officials at all levels below the county magistrate. That night, Ouyang Shua met with Lei Fan alone, and the two of them had a deep conversation. Ouyang Shua promised that the headquarters would provide Gushan County with a batch of food for free. The first task of Gushan County was to build the city wall and strengthen the city defense. The second task was to reclaim the farmland in preparation for the spring plowing next year. In view of the fact that the population of Gushan County had exceeded 30,000, and there was still nearly a year before the first rice harvest next year, it was estimated that the demand for grain would exceed 10 million units. With such a huge demand for food, the headquarters naturally could not provide all of it for free. According to Ouyang Shua's suggestion, the mountain barbarians would borrow rations from the Supplies Reserve Department. After the rice was harvested in the first season of the next year, they would supply it to the Supplies Reserve Department. Other than that, Lei Fan's more important task was to continue to promote the mountain barbarian policy of Shanghai County and contact more mountain barbarian tribes to leave the mountains and settle in Gushan County. Shanghai County did not reject anyone. The barbarians in the south had basically been wiped out. If he wanted to contact the mountain barbarians, he had to either go deep into the forest or head north. No matter what, Lei Fan could play a more important role than the Mystic Bird tribe. As the leader of a large mountain barbarian tribe, he maintained contact with other large mountain barbarian tribes. Through the large mountain barbarian tribes, and then spread out in all directions, this was undoubtedly the most effective method. In fact, with the reorganization of the Gushan County, the Mystic Bird tribe's position in Ouyang Shua's heart had declined. Their only role was to assist in the mining of the Wolf Mountain mine. As for the other matters of the mountain barbarians, because the Mystic Bird tribe was only a medium-sized tribe, whether it was in terms of vision or connections, they were already unable to provide too much help to Tian Wenjing. As for the other small and medium-sized tribes that didn't agree to go down the mountain, Ouyang Shua had already decided to ignore them and let them fend for themselves. The next morning, Ouyang Shua left with his troops and returned to Shanghai County that night. Ouyang Shua hurried back because tomorrow was the Mid-Autumn Festival and he couldn't be absent. First year of Gaia, October 4th, August 15th of the lunar calendar, Mid-Autumn Festival. Southwest University China Hall, Meteor Island. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Everything was quiet. Jiang Shang sat alone on a stone in front of the courtyard. He looked at the moon and reminisced about the past. The person had already passed away, but the bright moon remained eternally unchanging. All his hard work had gone down the drain. Old master, These are the mooncakes sent by the home mansion. The servant held a box of exquisite mooncakes in his hands. Jiang Shang's expression changed slightly, and he regained his composure. The young servant didn't dare to be rude. He put the mooncakes aside and quietly retreated. After the servant left, Jiang Shang picked up a piece of mooncake and muttered to himself, "Still not giving up?" The moon was speechless. The people were speechless. A cool breeze blew, rippling the lake. Home mansion, back garden. After the family banquet, Ouyang Shuo invited everyone to the back garden to admire the moon. The cool autumn breeze brought the fragrance of osmanthus flowers. Bing'er held a bouquet of osmanthus flowers in her hands. She ran to Zissou and said crisply, "Sister Zissou, Bing'er wants to eat osmanthus cake." Zissa nodded and said with a smile, "All right, I'll ask Aunt Wang to make osmanthus cake for little miss tomorrow." Ouyang Shuo looked at this scene with amusement. He hadn't been so relaxed in a long time. Recently, the affairs of the territory had kept him busy. The situation outside the territory was also changing. The last time Military Kill Ripper probed, it ended in failure. The strange thing was that after Military Kill Ripper returned, no news reached Ouyang Shuo's ears. It was as if a stone had sunk into the ocean. After the probing, Di Chun and the others would definitely be more cautious. Ouyang Shuo didn't believe that they would give up their plans for Shanghai County just like that. The storm in the future would only be stealthier and fiercer. Ouyang Shuo gradually felt powerless when it came to the affairs of the territory. He tried his best to plan everything for Shanghai County, and, at the same time, he had to carefully maintain the operations of the alliance. As the number of affiliated territories increased, Ouyang Shuo needed a genius who could help him manage the overall situation. Jiang Shang, who lived in seclusion on Fallen Star Island, was undoubtedly a suitable candidate. Unfortunately, things didn't go according to his wishes. "Brother, have a mooncake." Bing'er took a mooncake and handed it to Ouyang Shuo. "Good baby." Ouyang Shuo took the mooncake and smiled. All his worries were gone like flowing water. The wind was worry-free, and the people were worry-free. The moonlight was like a screen, flashing brightly. "Blockhead, I've received letters from some old classmates these days," Songjia suddenly said. "Old classmates? How do they know your ID?" "Yes, most of them are junior high school classmates. I suspect that it was Ruan Ping who leaked it. Before immigrating, he contacted his classmates. I heard that he invited many people to settle in his territory." Ouyang Shuo nodded. He immediately guessed the intention. "They want to join the Eastern Fence Sword faction?" "Yes, what do you think?" Song Jiao would still ask for Ouyang Shuo's opinion when it came to important matters. "You're welcome. Just remember to be careful." Ouyang Shuo was indifferent. Okay. Song Jiao naturally knew what to do. After the Mid-Autumn Festival, the food crisis completely broke out. The price of food rose to 30 copper coins per unit. The lords had no choice but to tighten their belts. The large grain merchants in the capital made a lot of money. The end of October was the day of the second harvest of rice. There was no need to remind them. Everyone knew that the price of food would fall at the end of October. October was the most difficult month for the players who became lords. Many territories had been forced to the edge of cliff. The territory's funds had long been used up, and the limited resources had been sold. There was no other way. Left with no other choice, some lords began to smuggle their precious weapons and equipment to adventurer players in order to obtain funds to buy life-saving rations. A large number of weapons and equipment entered the market. The major guilds seized the opportunity and started to buy them. Compared to the lords, adventure-type players weren't affected by the price of food. Adventure-type players weren't like lords, who had a large number of subjects to feed. Adventure-type players didn't have to worry about food. In desperation, some lords began to raise the taxes on their territories. Not only that, but they also sold the food they bought from the market at a high price to the people of their territories, causing many people to complain. In Shanghai County, the price of food was maintained at 11 copper coins per unit. The lords suffered from the high price of food because they needed to stabilize the price of food in their territories. If the price of food in their territories rose along with the market, Not only would it be a huge blow to the people's morale, but it would also easily cause chaos in their territories. The farmers naturally wouldn't sell their surplus food to their territories. Instead, they would want to hoard it. Thus, the lords had no choice but to use their own money to make up for the difference in food prices. The allies of the Alliance of Mountains and Seas were also worried. In late September, Ouyang Shuo injected capital into the various branches of the Bank of the Four Seas once. Milan County and Black Lion County, which had just been promoted to county level, were still doing well. They didn't have many people and could barely manage. Heavenly Frost County, which was still a level 3 town, had just been established and had ample funds. The hardest to bear were Luo Phone County and Sun Long County. They still had to repay their loans to the Bank of the Four Seas every month. They were already short on money, and now that the price of food had increased, they were in a miserable state. Similarly, Bayan Stubborn Stone County was also difficult to bear. The Bank of the Four Seas didn't set up a branch in Stubborn Stone County. It was quite amazing that Bayan had relied on his own strength to survive until now. After the Mid-Autumn Festival, Bayan finally couldn't hold on any longer and asked Ouyang Shuo for help. Ouyang Shuo no longer hesitated and sold off the 60 million units of food he had hoarded. After deducting the 10% transaction tax and the losses, he obtained 161,000 gold coins in one go. In addition to Ouyang Shuo's original remaining funds, he had a total of 77 million gold coins in his spatial pouch. Ouyang Shuo made a prompt decision and injected 40,000 gold coins into the Bank of the Four Seas headquarters. He also injected 2,000 gold coins into the Luo Phone County branch and the other 4 branches, for a total of 50,000 gold coins. With a one-time injection of 40,000 gold coins, the Bank of the Four Seas headquarters began to show the image of a central bank. Following the Bank of the Four Seas operations, the people's mindset had gradually changed. They were used to depositing their surplus money in the bank. Not only did they maintain their value, but they also earned interest. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. According to Ingyu, the Bank of the Four Seas had taken in 5,000 gold coins in September. According to Ouyang Shuo's plan, this would be the last time he would inject funds into the various branches. From then on, the Bank of the Four Seas headquarters would be responsible for the allocation of funds in the various branches. Ouyang Shuo would no longer interfere. Other than that, the Bank of the Four Seas Stubborn Stone County branch had also successfully opened for business with an initial deposit of 5,000 gold coins. With that, Ouyang Shuo still had 22 million gold coins in his hands. According to Ouyang Shuo's plan, 100,000 gold coins were classified as unusable funds. That was prepared for the annual auction that would be held 3 months later. Compared to the first system auction, the annual auction would be much grander. Some rare treasures would be revealed, and Ouyang Shuo naturally didn't want to miss it. If he wanted to make a difference in the annual auction, he would have to prepare more funds. If it wasn't for the food crisis that had drained the other territories of their liquid funds, Ouyang Shuo would have prepared even more funds in case of emergencies. To be continued. Chapter 242. On October 8th, the first year of Gaia, the talents recruited by the Chui Chamber of Commerce arrived at Shanghai County. This batch of talents totaled 1,200 people. Among them, 1,000 were blacksmiths, carpenters, tailors, and other skilled talents, and 200 were scholars, low-level officials, and early retired soldiers. Ouyang Shuo paid a total of 5,000 gold coins for this group of people to settle down and teleport. According to Ouyang Shuo's instructions, the blacksmiths, carpenters, and tailors were all assigned to the 3 military workshops in the Eastern District. The scholars and officials were assigned to various departments in Shanghai County. Most importantly, they were assigned to Tianfeng County and the other 5 affiliated territories to strengthen the administrative structure. The soldiers were assigned to various field brigades as platoon leaders or battalion commanders. Among the talents, Ouyang Shuo paid the most attention to 2. They were the civil official Chui Shaoxi and the military general Sun Quanlin. Chui Shaoxi was Ing Yu's cousin. He was a jinshi and one of the only two jinshi in the Chui family. He had been working in the Ministry of Appointments. Chui Shaoxi's arrival surprised Ing Yu. She did not expect the family to be so determined. The Chui family was established in business. Because of this, they paid more attention to the education of their descendants. They hoped that they would become officials and provide political protection for the family. Chui Shaoxi was one of the most successful examples of the Chui family's education. Ouyang Shua could roughly guess the Chui family's intentions. Without hesitation, he appointed Chui Shaoxi as the magistrate of Yishui County. Name: Chui Shaoxi Gold. Identity: County Magistrate of Yishui County. Occupation: Civil Official. Jinshi. Loyalty: 85 Commander, 35 Strength, 25 Intelligence, 50 Politics, 65 Specialty. Persuasion: increases agricultural development efficiency by 20%. Evaluation: Chui family disciple, knowledgeable, insightful, diligent. Chui Shaoxi was a gold-level talent, but he only had one specialty, which was slightly lacking. Fortunately, the specialty of persuading farmers to teach mulberry was a good match for Yishui County, which focused on agriculture. If Chui Shaoxi was the result of the Chui family's intentional arrangement, then Sun Quanlin was a pleasant surprise. Name: Sun Quanlin Gold. Identity: Shanghai County resident. Occupation: Intermediate General. Loyalty: 80 Commander, 60 Strength, 65 Intelligence, 40 Politics, 25 Skills. Projectile shooting: increases the range of the bow and arrow by 5. Vigorous shooting: increases the attack power of the bow and arrow by 10. Martial arts: Yuji archery. Equipment: Wild Goose Bow. Evaluation: once served as a captain in the Imperial Army. Because he was dissatisfied with the fact that his military achievements were replaced by those of aristocratic families, he brazenly exposed the evil deeds in the army. He regained his military achievements, but was treated coldly. Disheartened, he retired early. What made Sun Quanlin special was that he was the only general in Shanghai County who was famous for his archery. Ouyang Shua couldn't help but think back to the time when he was still a village, when he had the territory's first cavalry with crossbows. Ouyang Shua didn't hesitate and immediately appointed Sun Quanlin as the Deputy General of the Eastern City Barracks, as well as the 1st Division's 5th Brigade Commander. At this point, Shanghai County's 1st Division was officially at full strength. There were 5 regular brigades and 1 Imperial Guard brigade, and the total number of soldiers had reached 15,000. They were responsible for guarding the 4 directions. As the Shanghai County troops were reorganized, Ouyang Shua shifted his gaze to the northernmost part of the Lianzhou Basin. After the Battle of Mai, Mulan Town was successfully promoted to a first-class county. After 1.5 months, the population of Mulan Town reached the upper limit again, and it was naturally promoted to a second-class county. Mu Guiying said that the time to seize the southern pass was ripe. Mulan Town had just formed a city guard brigade, which included 2 saber and shield battalions, 1 cavalry battalion, and 2 archer battalions. With the strength of the city guard brigade, it was still not enough to seize the southern pass, and they would probably suffer heavy casualties. Therefore, they needed Shanghai County's assistance. If Ouyang Shua sent his army, they would naturally win the battle. The problem was that sending an army would require expensive teleportation fees. For example, the teleportation fee for 5,000 troops would be 10,000 gold coins. Gu Hongliang, the head of the Military Affairs Bureau, suggested that they could directly pass through the grassland without using the teleportation array. Gu Hongliang's proposal was also full of difficulties. Because they were going to attack a city, the infantry should be the core. The infantry marched slowly. Even if they marched quickly, it would take at least a week to cross more than 400 kilometers of grassland. In addition, if the army wanted to pass through the grassland, they would inevitably pass through the territories of the grassland tribes. The current situation in the grassland was complicated, and it was not advisable to beat the grass and alert the enemy. Ouyang Shua thought about it and could only send the most elite siege troops to assist Mulan Town in seizing the southern pass. In the end, he decided to transfer two of Shanghai County's ace battalions, the 1st Battalion of the Imperial Guard Brigade and the 1st Battalion of the 1st Brigade of the 1st Division. In addition, there were also 5 3-bow, 8 bull bed crossbows, and 10 scaling ladders. As the scale of the army expanded, pre-war preparations were no longer like before, which could be completed in a short time. The Military Affairs Bureau's Hummingbird carried Ouyang Shua's military order and flew to the Western Barracks. The Western Barracks received the military order and had to assemble the troops before rushing to the headquarters. It would take 2 days just to get there. The Western Barracks was cooperating with the construction of the Heavenly Sea Road to exterminate the surrounding bandits. The seized funds were handed over to the headquarters, which was Ouyang Sha. In order to increase the enthusiasm for exterminating the bandits, Ouyang Shua stipulated that 1/10 of the seized funds would be given as a special reward to all the officers and soldiers of the bandit extermination troops. The captured captives would be sent to the Military Affairs Bureau to serve as reserve soldiers. The remaining captives would be placed in the nearby Eternal Night Town or Guangshui Town to replenish the population of these 2 towns and strive to be promoted to a county town as soon as possible. This batch of captives was also arranged to serve in the Heavenly Sea Road project. On the 11th day of the 10th month, Ouyang Shua brought 1,000 elite troops and a large number of siege weapons to Mulan Town. Because the scaling ladders were still huge even after being dismantled, Ouyang Shua had to transport them back and forth several times. "Big Brother Wui, you're here." Mulan Yue was waiting for him at the teleportation array. Ouyang Shua nodded and asked, "Are you ready?" "Yes, Big Sister Mu is waiting for you in the barracks," Mulan Yue said with a smile. "Let's go." In the barracks, the Mulan Town City Guard Brigade had already assembled. Before setting off, Mu Guiying invited Ouyang Shua and the others to the barracks meeting hall for a meeting. Mu Guiying invited Ouyang Shua to sit in the seat of honor. Ouyang Shua shook his head and refused. "General Mu, for this attack on Southern Guard Pass, you will be the commander-in-chief. Shanghai County's troops will all listen to your arrangements." As he spoke, he introduced Wang Feng and Shi Hu to Mu Guiying. Mu Guiying had been paying attention to Southern Guard Pass for a long time. Her understanding of the Southern Guard Pass far surpassed Ouyang Shua's. As for how to attack Southern Guard Pass, she probably already had a well-developed battle plan. Ouyang Shua naturally wouldn't overstep his bounds and let the guests take priority. Mu Guiying was a heroine with a forthright temperament. She didn't refuse and sat in the seat of honor. She said, "Through this period of investigation, I finally have a general understanding of Southern Guard Pass. There are around 3,000 bandits occupying Southern Guard Pass, and their leader is called Li Anbai. He used to be a famous hero in Jianghu. Later, he fell into a trap and was expelled from his sect. He wandered about in the wilderness and eventually became a bandit. This person is highly skilled in martial arts. Although he is a bandit, he still has a chivalrous heart. After plotting to take over Southern Guard Pass, he restrained his subordinates from killing the innocent. The problem is that because of that incident in his early years, Li Anbai has suffered internal injuries that have yet to fully recover. In addition to his old age, he is gradually losing his strength. It seems that he won't be able to restrain his subordinates any longer." Ouyang Shua nodded. No wonder Mu Guiying was so anxious to eradicate Southern Guard Pass. So this was the reason. It could be foreseen that if Li Anbai died, the first place to suffer would be Mulan County. Li Anbai has a daughter named Li Feishue. She is 16 years old and was born to his wife after he became a bandit. Li Anbai loved this daughter dearly and taught her everything he knew in his life. This Miss Li, under her father's intentional nurturing, has never been tainted. She is slender, elegant, and pure. She has never been tainted by the habits of bandits. Because of this, Li Anbai worried that after he died, not only would his daughter be unable to establish a foothold in Southern Guard Pass, but she might even lose her chastity. Mu Guiying tirelessly explained, "Ouyang Shua never imagined that there would be such a complicated story. Because of this, Li Onbai couldn't sleep at night. It just so happened that the identity of a spy that I arranged to be stationed in Southern Guard Pass was seen through by the astute Li Onbai. This person was also fierce. He actually beat the spy at his own game and found out about the spy's background. When he learned that the spy came from Milan County, he immediately had an idea. After learning about the details, Li Onbai was even more excited. He made a prompt decision to offer up Southern Guard Pass in order to protect his daughter's chastity. Ouyang Shua suddenly understood. No wonder Mu Ging had such a deep understanding of Southern Guard Pass. She even knew about such a secret. What followed was confusion. Since Li Onbai was willing to offer up Southern Guard Pass, why did Mu Guiying ask for Shanghai County's assistance? With such a spy, wouldn't taking down Southern Guard Pass be a piece of cake? Did something happen in between? Ouyang Shua asked. Mu Guiying let out a long sigh. The marquis guess was correct. Something did happen. Just 2 days ago, for some unknown reason, news of Li Onbai's intention to offer up Southern Guard Pass was suddenly leaked, causing a great uproar within the pass. Although the mountain bandits respected Li Onbai as their leader, they couldn't accept him offering up Southern Guard Pass. In addition, some people with ulterior motives added fuel to the fire. According to the spy's last message, Li Onbai and his daughter have already been placed under house arrest. The person in charge of Southern Guard Pass has already changed hands. Not only that, but the mountain bandits have also threatened to attack our Mulan County as punishment. Ouyang Shua shook his head in amusement. These mountain bandits don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. It's fine if they obediently hide within Southern Guard Pass, but once they come out, how could they be a match for Mulan County? I'm afraid this isn't true. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.